Chapter 537. P.S. I'm ashamed to only write 5 chapters today. Everyone supported me so much. I wanted to write 10 chapters to repay you, but I didn't have the strength to do so. I've been exhausted for 2 consecutive days. Today, my body is weak, and I can't bring myself to do it. I'm really sorry. Ning Buyuan shouted angrily, "You're courting death." His chubby body shot towards Zhou Lingfeng like an arrow that left the bow. Zhou Lingfeng's ferocious face showed a hint of a smile. He avoided him again and instantly appeared in front of Ning Zhongyuan like a ghost. He slammed his palm down. Ning Zhongyuan scoffed angrily and countered with his palm. Ning Buyuan also slammed his palm. The two of them attacked from the front and back. Zhou Lingfeng did not avoid their palm energy. Bam! As he was hit by the palm, he hit Ning Zhongyuan. Ugh! Ning Zhongyuan spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. He was already unable to withstand his extremely firm and yang palm energy. Now that he was hit again, the strange, explosive palm energy exploded. His inner energy was instantly messed up, and he lost all his strength. Ning Buyuan shouted, "Second brother!" Ning Zhongyuan waved his hand and said, "Boss, we're going to die here today." He turned his head to look at Dong Qifei and Yang Zongwen, who were on the ground. He laughed and said, "I won't be lonely with everyone's company on the road to hell." Ning Buyuan shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and leave." "We can't leave." Ning Zhongyuan shook his head and spat out another mouthful of blood. He said helplessly, "What's the centurion doing? Did he want to plot against the Tempest Temple? And we ran too fast?" Dong Qifei said weakly, "Something went wrong with the plan?" "Ha ha!" Ning Zhongyuan laughed loudly. Chu Li shook his head from afar. They were really imaginative. Zhou Lingfeng looked at them faintly and walked towards Ning Buyuan step by step. Ning Buyuan clenched his teeth and said hatefully, "Zhou, we won't be able to escape even if you kill us. The centurion will avenge us." Zhou Lingfeng said lightly, "Death is not that scary. You'll know once you experience it." "Go to hell!" Ning Buyuan roared. His body suddenly became slim, and his facial features became clearer. He suddenly became handsome, as if he was a different person. "Boss," Ning Zhongyuan sighed. If he used this technique, he would have killed Zhou Lingfeng, but he would have died as well. This was the burning lamp technique, using his blood as oil. Once the oil was burnt out, he would be useless. It seemed like he had no choice but to use it. If both of them used it, they would be able to kill Zhou Lingfeng together. To be able to drag this guy whose hands were stained with blood along with him was actually a wonderful thing. As he thought of this, his body suddenly became thinner, and he became a handsome young man, almost identical to Ning Buyuan. He flew up with a soar. His body was as fast as lightning, and he and Ning Buyuan attacked Zhou Lingfeng from both sides. Zhou Lingfeng moved like a ghost, and the two of them moved extremely fast too. Dong Qifei and Yang Zongwen were dazzled by their movements. They could only see 3 shadows floating around in an unpredictable manner. Zhou Lingfeng's movement technique was similar to theirs, but Zhou Lingfeng did not care about their palm energy at all. His strange palm energy made them feel extremely uncomfortable. Suddenly, Chu Li appeared behind Dong Qifei and Yang Zongwen. He patted their backs and channeled a strong inner energy to stabilize their injuries. "Centurion!" They were overjoyed. Chu Li nodded. "Both of you focus on healing yourselves. Don't worry about anything else." "Yes." The two of them quickly nodded. Chu Li appeared behind Zhou Lingfeng and patted him with his palm. He said in a deep voice, "Both of you step back and remove the secret technique." "It's too late." Ning Zhongyuan smiled bitterly. We're definitely going to die. Let's take care of him first. He can't be killed. Chu Li scoffed. Don't pay with your lives. He took a hit from Zhou Lingfeng and realized that Zhou Lingfeng was more powerful than before. Right after he said that, he kicked Zhou Lingfeng away and slapped Ning Zhongyuan and Ning Buiyuan away. The two of them felt a strange force entering their bodies. The burning blood essence seemed to have been splashed with a bucket of cold water, extinguishing it in an instant. Their blood essence no longer burned, and a feeling of weakness attacked their bodies, causing them to fall to the ground. Chu Li saw them activating their secret technique from afar. He knew how to break it, so he stopped them right away. Chu Li and Zhou Lingfeng's body movement technique was extremely fast. Bam bam, sounds could be heard continuously, and they turned into two fleeting shadows. Amitabha Buddha, in the sound of Buddha's name. The four monks' gray robes fluttered, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of them. The four monks stood in four different directions and bowed with pressed palms. F.A. Yuan said, Almsgiver Chu, let us do it. Chu Li said, This guy really can't be killed. I killed him once. Sigh. F.A. Yuan sighed. He's at the point of breaking through. Killing him would be helping him. Almsgiver Shao, this person can only be trapped. It's not good to kill him. Can he be trapped to death? While Chu Li and Zhou Lingfeng continuously exchanged blows, the bam 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 sounds could be heard, and at the same time, he talked to F.A. Yuan calmly. F.A. Yuan sighed. If he doesn't absorb evil energy, his cultivation level will not increase, and his body will become weaker day by day. When he dies, naturally, he won't be able to live again. Chu Li frowned. What if he commits suicide? If he commits suicide, he will die forever. Once an Asura commits suicide, the heart of Asura will disintegrate and disappear from the world forever, never to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Chu Li's thoughts turned quickly, and he laughed. This is interesting. He can't die towards death. He has to die towards life. Only then can he be resurrected. Exactly. F.A. Yuan slowly said. So he can't commit suicide just to increase his cultivation level. The laws of the world are really mysterious. Chu Li sighed. It's not easy for an Asura either. F.A. Yuan said. Almsgiver Zhou has already broken through. He's becoming more and more terrifying. It's better for our temple to suppress him. I'll just trap him, Chu Li lightly said. That's a lot of trouble, Almsgiver Chu. F.A. Yuan sighed. If that's the case, then I can only offend you. Chu Li scoffed. F.A. Yuan, then let's see who's more brilliant. Amitabha Buddha. F.A. Yuan placed his palms together and chanted. Before he could finish chanting, Chu Li suddenly flashed and appeared behind him. F.A. Yuan quickly pointed behind him. However, Chu Li had already shot more than 10 meters away. F.A. Yuan's other hand pointed at Zhou Lingfeng. Zhou Lingfeng did not dodge his finger energy. He shot straight ahead, trying to catch up to Chu Li. Poof. An almost undetectable sound came from Zhou Lingfeng's body. Zhou Lingfeng stopped in disbelief and stared at F.A. Yuan. F.A. Yuan pointed his finger again. He had already predicted Zhou Lingfeng's reaction. This petrifying finger was enough to suppress Zhou Lingfeng. Poof! Another finger energy shot out. Zhou Lingfeng's body trembled. His body that was about to move stopped again. You... Zhou Lingfeng's eyes widened. F.A. Yuan pointed his finger again. Chu Li suddenly appeared behind Zhou Lingfeng, picked him up, and dodged F.A. Yuan's finger energy. At the same time, he escaped from the encirclement of the four people, carried him, and floated away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Amitabha Buddha. F.A. Yuan took a deep breath and slowly chanted the name of Buddha, Ningbui Yuan, and the other three people's faces changed. Their ears were numb from the vibration. This chant of Buddha contained a strong force. After chanting the name of Buddha, F.A. Yuan regained his calmness. He turned his head and looked at the four people. Ningbui Yuan, said, "Great master, you can't be thinking of capturing us to exchange with the Centaurian, right?" Fa Yuan shook his head. "I won't do that. The four of you are heavily injured. It's better to be careful. I'll take my leave. Farewell, great master." The four people sighed in relief. Chapter 538. P.S. I wasn't in the best condition yesterday. I'm ashamed of everyone's support. I'll add more chapters today. I have to be worthy of everyone's support. Looking at the four monks' gray robes fluttering away, the four of them let out a long sigh of relief. They collapsed on the ground, not wanting to move at all. Recalling the scene just now, it was too thrilling. They almost lost their lives. Sigh, our centurion. Ning Zhongyuan shook his head and sighed, helplessly. Ning Buiyuan said, "What are you trying to say?" Ning Zhongyuan sighed, "We'll be toyed to death by him sooner or later." "Brother Zhongyuan, what do you mean?" Dong Qifei quickly asked. He consumed the spirit medicine. With the help of Chu Li's spiritual energy, his injuries were greatly reduced. He felt like he had returned to the human world from hell. He felt that it was great to be alive. He was interested in everything. "Forget it." Ning Zhongyuan waved his hand. He did not want to say much. "Just say what you have to say. We'll be in the same pot in the future." Dong Qifei quickly said. Yang Zongwen said, "Brother Zhongyuan, do you think that the Centaurian has been here for a long time and has been watching from the side?" "What do you think?" Ning Zhongyuan asked. Yang Zongwen nodded. "It's highly possible." "Why is that?" Dong Qifei was puzzled. He then slapped his head and laughed. He remembered Chu Li's instruction to hide behind the Ning brothers and learn from them. It seemed like the Centaurian wanted to see their abilities. Yang Zongwen shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Sigh, we won't have a good life following our Centaurian. Luckily, he didn't leave us in the lurch." Ning Zhongyuan shook his head, helplessly. "As long as we don't offend the Centaurian." Dong Qifei forced a smile. Ning Buiyuan scoffed. "All right, hurry up and heal your injuries. What's the point of saying all this?" Ning Zhongyuan smiled. "Big brother, how do you think we should count this? Is the Centaurian saving our lives or not?" "Of course it's saving our lives. If it wasn't for the Centaurian, our lives would be over. We would have been killed by that guy." Ning Buiyuan said. "That's true." Ning Zhongyuan was unconvinced. Ning Buiyuan scoffed. "It's our duty to bring the murderer back to the residence. We can't blame anyone else if something happens." "You're really open-minded, boss." Ning Zhongyuan laughed. He turned his head to look around and chuckled. "Boss, do you think the Centaurian is still around? Get lost." Ning Buiyuan laughed. Dong Qifei and Yang Zongwen laughed. The feeling of escaping from death was exceptionally wonderful. Chu Li brought Zhou Lingfeng along as he glided away. Zhou Lingfeng wanted to struggle, but all his acupuncture points were sealed. Soon, Chu Li realized that the body of Azura was extremely strong. His acupuncture points could not be sealed, and in just a moment they were unsealed on their own. He did not believe it and sealed his acupoints again and again, not allowing him to unseal them. Zhou Lingfeng gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. Chu Li's technique was too fast. Chu Li tried to move Fa Yuan's petrifying finger. Mastering one technique meant mastering 100 techniques. His dharma was profound, and he was familiar with the martial arts of the Tempest Temple. Hence, it was easy for him to cultivate the petrifying finger. This set of finger technique was extremely magical. It could actually freeze a person in place. It involved a very profound theory of martial arts. Chu Li could not understand it in such a short amount of time, so he could only try to practice it first. After more than 10 fingers, he felt that something was wrong. He tried to use it on Zhou Lingfeng, but it did not work. He was deep in thought as he galloped. His fingers kept moving, and he did not stop practicing the petrifying finger. In the end, he shook his head. Suddenly, in a flash, the two of them disappeared. The next moment, they appeared halfway up the mountain outside of Horse Racing Town. Zhou Lingfeng's acupuncture points were immediately unsealed. He stared at Chu Li ferociously and pounced on him. If you want to kill someone, you must kill them. This was the will of Azura. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and reappeared 10 meters away. In Zhou Lingfeng's eyes, Chu Li disappeared. He was surrounded by trees of all kinds. At a glance, it was as if he was in an ocean. He frowned in confusion, but he did not care. He started running and used his light body technique to run along the treetops. Chu Li smiled from 10 meters away. Zhou Lingfeng felt that he was leaving, but in reality, he was running in circles. If he did not wake up from his stupor, he would tire himself to death. This was the power of a formation. He sat under a tree and continued to practice the petrifying finger. The scene of Fa Yuan using the petrifying finger flashed in his mind. He tried to channel inner energy in his body, but it did not work. The finger energy from the petrifying finger had no power. He thought for a while and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He gave up on the infinite azure sea. The scripture of duality could activate all the martial arts in the world, but the infinite azure sea could not. He used the scripture of duality and shot out a finger. Poof! A soft sound could be heard from the opposite tree. Chu Li only felt that his body was empty, and more than half of his inner energy had disappeared. When the finger energy hit the tree, it only absorbed half of his inner energy. It was a strange feeling, as if the finger energy broke through the restraints of space. It was just one finger, but it used half of his inner energy, and it was silent. This petrifying finger was indeed strange. The scripture of life and death urged the spiritual energy around him to rush in, turning it into the inner energy of the scripture of duality. He pointed again, and poof, another half of his inner energy disappeared. The wind blew, and the leaves of the surrounding trees swayed. Only that tree did not move, as if it was carved out of stone. Chu Li smiled, and suddenly pointed at Zhou Lingfeng, who was running in circles. Zhou Lingfeng suddenly twisted his body, trying to avoid it. His spiritual sense was amazing, and he could feel the petrifying finger approaching. Chu Li sighed. The body of Azura was indeed powerful. He used the formation to calculate Zhou Lingfeng's trajectory and speed. His brain, with the omniscient mirror, was exceptionally sharp and fast, 10 times faster than a normal person's. He suddenly pointed 3 petrifying fingers. Zhou Lingfeng could not avoid it. He dodged 2 of them, but he could not completely avoid the third one. His shoulder was hit. Zhou Lingfeng's body froze. Chu Li pointed 2 more petrifying fingers. The omniscient mirror could clearly see Zhou Lingfeng's body's reaction. The petrifying finger landed on his body, and it seemed to have interfered with the circulation of his body. Whether it was his inner energy or his heartbeat, they all stopped for a moment. The duration was very short, only 1 breath. At this time, another petrifying finger landed, and it continued to freeze. This time, it could freeze for a few breaths. The next one could freeze for more than 10 breaths. With each petrifying finger, the effect became stronger. Chu Li smiled. What a petrifying finger! What a good Great Lane temple! As expected, they were able to create such a wondrous art. He suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Lingfeng. Zhou Lingfeng was frozen, and he stared at Chu Li as he saw Chu Li's palm coming towards him. Bam! Zhou Lingfeng was sent flying into a tree and fell to the ground. Uffed! He spat out a mouthful of blood. This palm was solid, and Zhou Lingfeng's body of Azura was already strong enough to not be killed. Chu Li did not hold back at all. He wanted to beat him half to death. Die! Zhou Lingfeng flew into the air again and shot towards Chu Li. Chu Li did not care about it, and the two of them started fighting with the Shura palm. Bam, 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 bam. Chu Li and Zhou Lingfeng struck more than 100 palms in one go, and the heavenly demonic orb was absorbing all the palm energy. Chu Li suddenly felt a little full, so he instantly disappeared and reappeared 20 meters away. Zhou Lingfeng frowned. He looked around and jumped onto a tree. It was still a sea of trees, and there was no sign of Chu Li. Chu Li was under a tree, motionless, and as calm as water. Chapter 539. This ball of blue water slowly flowed out from his heart and flowed along his veins like a turtle swimming. Wherever it passed, his flesh was dyed blue. It was numb and itchy, as if ants were biting him. The itch went deep into his bones, and he wanted to scream, but he could not make a sound. Chu Li focused on this ball of blue water and closed his senses. This ball of blue water flowed slowly, and he felt as if it was a year. It first flowed along his veins to his head. The bones in his head seemed to have turned soft and melted with a touch. Some of the energy in his mind was absorbed by it, and the blue water became darker. It slowly flowed from his head to his feet, and then back to his heart. When this ball of blue water returned to his heart, it had shrunk by half, as if it was consumed by his body. Chu Li felt that it was purifying himself, and the half consumed by his body was its impurities. It slowly condensed above his heart. It condensed again and again until it finally condensed into a blue bead that flashed with lightning. This bead was half the size of the previous heavenly demonic orb, but it was more solid and bright. The light was gentle and solid, as if it could illuminate his internal organs. The blue light was faint and dreamy. This was what he saw through his interior view. Outsiders would not be able to see this pearl that was overflowing with light. He finally ended this crazy itch that made him want to tear his body apart. He let out a long sigh of relief. He exhaled like an arrow, but the arrow was black. When it landed on the ground, the plants instantly withered. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He did not expect this turbid energy to be so powerful. He looked at himself to see if there were any changes. His body was thinner, just like the heavenly demonic orb. The impurities in his body seemed to have been removed and became purer. The turbid energy just now was the impurities. His flesh and bones became more solid, and his energy surged as if it was endless. It was similar to the feeling when he transformed into the heavenly demonic body. He knew that it was an illusion, so he did not use it. He looked at Zhou Lingfeng again. Zhou Lingfeng was sitting cross-legged under a tree to heal himself. Chu Li shot out 2 petrifying fingers, one after the other. Zhou Lingfeng dodged it, but he could not avoid the other spear finger strike. Chu Li learned the second level of the spear finger strike from Fa Yuan. The force of the finger was as light as the wind, almost undetectable. Together with the wind, it blew towards Zhou Lingfeng, silently attacking him. Zhou Lingfeng shuddered and suddenly felt uncomfortable. At this moment, Chu Li shot out 2 more petrifying fingers. Zhou Lingfeng quickly moved to the side, forcefully avoiding the 2 petrifying fingers. Chu Li exclaimed in admiration. The body of Azura was indeed extremely powerful. He stopped using his fingers and flew in front of Zhou Lingfeng, striking out with his Shura palm. Bam! Zhou Lingfeng took a step back and frowned at him. He felt that Chu Li had grown stronger. Chu Li smiled. It seemed that his body had become stronger as he advanced the heavenly demonic power. Bang! 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 The 2 of them clashed again, and their palms collided more than 10 times. When Chu Li struck out with his palm, he suddenly shot out a finger energy. It was too close, and Zhou Lingfeng couldn't dodge in time. Then, more than 10 finger forces shot out. Zhou Lingfeng's heartbeat became slower and slower until it finally stopped. A few minutes later, he was stiff and motionless, dead once again. Chu Li let out a smile. He had finally killed this guy. However, in order to prevent a resurrection like last time, he needed to keep an eye on him. If there were any movements, he would immediately launch another dozen or so petrifying fingers. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to kill him. He just didn't know what was the difference between using the petrifying finger and killing with a sword. From an outsider's point of view, the petrifying finger was more troublesome. It was not as satisfying as stabbing a sword through the heart. However, Chu Li felt that it was not that simple. He had to slowly understand this in the future. He would ask Fa Yuan if he had the chance. "You're all back, where's your centurion?" Ma Kuan asked in a low voice. Ning Bui Yuan and the others had already returned to the secret guardians hall and were reporting to Fu Mengshan in the main hall. Ma Kuan received the news and rushed over. His face was extremely gloomy and his eyes flashed with anger. He stared at the Ning brothers, Dong Qifei, and Yang Zongwen. The four of them lowered their heads and didn't look him in the eye. Fu Mengshan stared at Ma Kuan in dissatisfaction. "Elder Ma, shut up and stand aside," Ma Kuan shouted. "Commander, the one with the surname Chu must have gotten rid of the murderer." "It's none of your business." Fu Mengshan waved his hand impatiently. "Step aside. Don't interrupt when I'm talking. Otherwise, you're not allowed to enter the main hall for a month." "All right, I want to hear what the commander is going to ask." Ma Kuan scoffed and stared at the four of them. Fu Mengshan coughed softly. "Da Ning, tell me what's going on." "Commander, we went to investigate the full Cloud camp case and found some clues. So, we chased after the murderer and found out that his martial arts was too strong. He killed people like they were chickens. It seemed like 2 of our secret guardians' hall had already died in his hands. He was killing a group of martial arts masters. We ran away when we saw that the situation was not good." Ninghui Yuan said. Fu Mengshan nodded. Running away when the situation was not good was the rule of the secret guardians' hall. They were not allowed to die in vain. "You guys must have left us to die." Ma Kuan said in a low voice. "Why didn't you save your companions when they were in danger?" Ning Bui Yuan shook his head. "Centurion Ma, we've been wronged. When we went over, the 2 of them were already dead. Moreover, with our martial arts, we couldn't even last 2 moves. We were powerless." Fu Mengshan looked at them deeply. "What happened after that?" Ning Bui Yuan said, "In the end, we couldn't escape and were caught. At this time, the centurion rushed over and blocked the guy." Chu Li was meticulous. He must have realized that something was wrong. Fu Mengshan glanced at Ma Kuan. Ma Kuan uncomfortably turned his gaze away from him. In comparison, he, the centurion, seemed to be slightly inferior. Fu Mengshan said, "What happened next?" "The monks from the Tempest Temple suddenly ran over and wanted to take the murderer away. He cultivated the Azura power technique of the Tempest Temple." "What?" Fu Mengshan's expression changed. Ma Kuan's expression changed too. "He cultivated the Azura power technique." Fu Mengshan quickly asked. Ning Bui Yuan quickly nodded. "Absolutely." Monk Fa Yuan from the Tempest Temple said that he couldn't be killed. He could only be suppressed in the Tempest Temple to prevent him from coming out to do evil. That's why they wanted to take him back. The Azura power technique. Fu Mengshan frowned. He shook his head and sighed. From then on, the martial arts world was going to be troublesome. What happened after that? Ning Bui Yuan said. The Centurion asked us to leave first. We were curious, so we hid at the side and watched. The Centurion originally wanted to let the guy go to the Tempest Temple. Fu Mengshan frowned and remained silent. Ma Kun sneered. Ningbu Yuan said, I was anxious, so I told him that 2 of my colleagues from the Secret Guardians Hall had died in his hands. So the Centurion changed his mind and lured that fellow away, causing the monks from the Tempest Temple to be unable to catch up. His light body technique was amazing. Fu Mengshan smiled. After that, the Centurion caught up to us and passed the guy's corpse to us. He wanted us to bring it back to the commander. He wanted to lure the monks from the Tempest Temple away. But halfway through, the corpse resurrected and almost killed us. If it wasn't for the Centurion's timely appearance, we would have died again. Ning Buyun shook his head. This is the power of the Azura power technique. Fu Mengshan shook his head and smiled bitterly. He couldn't be killed. I'm afraid Chu Li doesn't know either. Count yourselves lucky. Ning Buyuan said. The monks from the Tempest Temple came to ask for the guy again. The Centurion escaped with the murderer. The Tempest Temple. Fu Mengshan slammed the armrest of his armchair and said hatefully, How arrogant! Chapter 540. Thank you for your concern, Senior Ma. I'm back. Chu Li's voice was heard. He carried Zhou Lingfeng and appeared in the main hall. Fu Mengshan smiled. Young Chu, you're finally back. Chu Li threw Zhou Lingfeng to the ground and closed fist saluted. Greetings, Commander. The murderer is here. Fu Mengshan came in front of Chu Li and looked at Zhou Lingfeng, who was motionless on the ground, the one who cultivated the Azura power technique. Chu Li nodded. Fu Mengshan sighed. This is a big problem. Chu Li said, The Emperor should be able to kill him, right? The Emperor can. Fu Mengshan shook his head. Unfortunately, the Emperor won't kill him. Why not? Chu Li asked. Fu Mengshan looked around and waved his hand. All right, you guys can go back to work. Ningbu Yuan and the others closed fists saluted, then closed fists saluted at Chu Li. Chu Li waved his hand, and the 4 of them walked out. Ma Kun stood there and did not leave. Fu Mengshan frowned and looked at him. Elder Ma, why aren't you leaving? Commander, I want to hear it too. Ma Kun smiled. Fu Mengshan said impatiently, It has nothing to do with you. Why do you want to hear it? How is it unrelated? 2 of my men died in his hands. Ma Kun quickly said, You still have the cheek to say that. With your abilities, you think you can catch this guy? Fu Mengshan said impatiently. If Chu Li can, why can't I? Ma Kun scoffed. Chu Li said, Senior Ma, as the saying goes, a useless general will cause the death of the entire army. Senior Ma, you are exactly like that. Ma Kun's face turned red and said fiercely, What did you say? Chu Li looked at Zhou Lingfeng, who was on the ground, and sighed. You really don't deserve to be a Centurion. With your abilities, I would even consider you useless as my subordinate. Chu Li, how dare you? Ma Kun shouted. Chu Li smirked. I sent the Ning brothers to investigate. Dong Qifei and Yang Zongwen followed them just in case. What about you? You only sent 2 innate masters. Do you think the Secret Guardians Hall is invincible? You. Ma Kun's eyes widened. Chu Li scoffed. It's because of your arrogance and contempt that 2 of your comrades lost their lives. A Centurion like you is simply a scourge to the Secret Guardians Hall. How many comrades will die because of your incompetence? Bullshit! Ma Kun roared. Chu Li closed fist saluted Fu Mengshan and said in a low voice, Commander, by right, I don't have the right to say these things, but after seeing those 2 comrades die just like that, I really can't help but feel relieved. An idiot like Ma Kun really doesn't have the right to be a Centurion. Even if his contributions are sufficient, he still can't be a centurion. You with the surname Chu, old Ma, have worked hard and conscientiously for so many years, yet you, a little kid, dare to be so impudent. How dare you? Ma Kuan shouted. Commander, I want to duel with him. Fu Mengshan waved his hand and said, What duel? It's just a battle of words. Ma Kuan said, Commander, don't protect him. I must teach him a lesson today, and let him know his place. Chu Li said faintly, I know the immensity of heaven and earth, but I'm afraid that you don't. Senior Ma, don't tell me those 2 comrades died in vain. Everything was caused by your carelessness. I'm afraid it's not the first time you've made such a mistake, right? Bullshit. I want to duel with you. Ma Kuan took a step forward and roared. His eyes were bloodshot and his veins were bulging. He was furious. Fu Mengshan waved his hand and said, Young Chu, you've overstepped your authority. Whether Ma Kuan can become a centurion or not is not up to you to decide. Yes, Chu Li closed fist saluted and said, I was angry and said too much. I hope Commander can forgive me, but I have to say, someone like Ma Kuan really doesn't deserve to be a centurion. He will only cause the death of more comrades. You're asking for it. Ma Kuan could not hold it in anymore and rushed towards Chu Li with a punch. The distance between the 2 of them was not far, and his body movement technique was extremely fast. Bam! Chu Li's shoulder was hit by the punch, but he did not dodge. Stop! Fu Mengshan frowned. Ma Kuan was already mad with anger. He could not listen to the words of others and punched Chu Li's head again. Smashing his head with one punch was the best way to vent his anger. Chu Li scoffed softly and pressed his palm down lightly. Senior Ma, you should calm down. Bam! This palm seemed to be gentle, but it was extremely fast. Ma Kuan could not dodge it and was hit squarely. Bam! Ma Kuan shot out like an arrow that left the bow and crashed heavily into the pillar of the main hall. The main hall actually shook, showing how heavy the impact was. Ma Kuan slid down from the pillar weakly and sat on the floor, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Chu Li closed fist saluted at Fu Mengshan and said, Commander, I'm really sorry. I couldn't hold it in. I'm willing to accept the punishment. Ma Kuan was the one who attacked first, so he was also at fault. It was best for him to admit his mistake first. Fu Mengshan stared at the 2 with a gloomy face. Ma Kuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stared at Chu Li fiercely. Chu Li, you and I are irreconcilable. Chu Li looked at him lightly. Senior Ma, you've lost your composure. Lost my composure. I'm going to kill you. Ma Kuan scolded fiercely. Chu Li, just you wait. If you can live for a month, I'll change my surname to yours. Chu Li said lightly, I don't have a son like you. You're courting death. Ma Kuan jumped up from the ground and shot towards Chu Li. Chu Li took a step back lightly and dodged the punch just as it was about to hit him. This made Ma Kuan extremely happy. He closed fist saluted at Fu Mengshan. Commander, please let Senior Ma calm down. I'm just stating the facts. I didn't expect Senior Ma to be so agitated and lose his composure. Despicable bastard. Ma Kuan roared and threw another punch. Ning Buiyuan and the other 3 did not leave the main hall. They were walking outside. When they heard what they said, they unconsciously slowed down their footsteps. When they reached the main hall's entrance, they had already started fighting. They were dumbfounded. They did not expect it to be so explosive. They thought that the centurion was just venting his anger by mocking Ma Kuan. They did not expect the centurion to be so capable that he provoked Ma Kuan into fighting. This was a violation of the rules, and he would be severely punished Chu Li dodged again when Ma Kuen's fist was about to hit him. "Stop right now," Fu Mengshan shouted. His voice was like a clap of thunder. Ma Kuen immediately slowed down and calmed down. He had goosebumps all over his body. He quickly took a step back and closed fist saluted. "Commander, I've lost my composure." Due to his anger, all his hatred and killing intent exploded at once. That was why he acted so crazily. Now that he thought about it, he immediately realized that he was tricked. He was tricked by Chu Li. Fu Mengshan stared at him coldly and expressionlessly. When Ma Kuen saw his expression, he knew that something was wrong. Before Fu Mengshan could speak, he quickly said, "Commander, please forgive me for losing my composure. It's all because of this Chu Li who made me angry step by step. If it was any other time, I would not have attacked him. I hope Commander will understand." Fu Mengshan looked at him coldly and did not say a word. Ma Kuen quickly said, "I shouldn't have attacked him. But Commander, look, I've been injured by him too. He must have planned this for a long time. Otherwise, why would he hit me so hard?" Fu Mengshan sneered and did not say a word. Chapter 541. Chu Li calmly said, "Senior Ma, this alone isn't enough. You're courting death." Ma Kuen was furious. His original fear and anger exploded once again. There was only one thought in his mind. No matter how he was punished, he had to kill this guy first. He instantly shot towards Chu Li and threw another punch. Chu Li shrank and dodged it. In this situation, there was no need for him to do it. Doing it himself would only backfire. "Ma Kuen, from today onwards, you're no longer a centurion. Be a second in command," Fu Mengshan said lightly. Ma Kuen did not care and rushed towards Chu Li. Even if he was to be a second in command, he had to kill Chu Li first. He could not let him be so arrogant in front of him. "Chu Li doesn't have a second in command yet. You'll be the second in command," Fu Mengshan said coldly. Ma Kuen immediately came to his senses and stopped in his tracks. He widened his eyes in disbelief. "Commander," Fu Mengshan said, "why, you don't want to do it." "Commander, I can be the second in command, but why should I work under him?" "Commander, you know the grudge between him and me," Ma Kuen shouted. Fu Mengshan said lightly, "If you don't want to do it, then go guard the Imperial Mausoleum." "Commander, I've been working hard all these years. Even if I don't have any merits, I've put in a lot of effort, right? How can you treat me like this?" Fu Mengshan said, "You need to broaden your horizons and learn well. See how Chu Li does things. If you make contributions in the future, you might be able to be a centurion again. I'm doing this for you. You have to understand. I'm irreconcilable with Chu Li," Ma Kuen said agitatedly. Fu Mengshan said lightly, "Looks like you value your personal grudge more than being a centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall. I have nothing else to say. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. You can guard the Imperial Mausoleum or be the second in command. It's up to you." "Commander," Ma Kuen shouted. Chu Li said, "Commander, he's an idiot. It's hard for him to be the second in command. I'm afraid Ma Kuen is not as stupid as you think. He's still capable of being the second in command. I'm telling you, if anything happens to him and he loses his life, I'll hold you responsible." Sigh. Chu Li shook his head and said, "For the commander to treat a meritorious official like me like this, it's really—" Ma Kuen listened to his sarcastic words and became angry again. He wanted to kill him. Fu Mengshan said snappily, "I left Ma Kuen for you to torment. Isn't that good enough for you?" Chu Li smiled and said, "There's no need for him to come here to torment him. Commander, we still have to get the credit that we deserve." "Of course." Fu Mengshan smiled and said, "You guys won't be forgotten." Ma Kuan stood dejectedly at the side, watching Chu Li and Fu Mengshan joking around. His heart was filled with anger and sorrow. Ma Kuan said, "Li Ma, Ma, Kuan, Ma, Ma Li, Ma Ma Ma." After saying that, he waved his hand and said, "You can leave." Ma, Ma, K, Ma, 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 K, Ma, 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 2, Ma, 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 Mali, Ma, Ma, Fu Kuan to Ma, 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 Ma. He closed fist saluted at Fu Mengshan and left. Ningbo Yuan and the other three quickly made way for him. As they watched him lift the curtain and walk out, they almost bumped into someone. Su Huanda avoided Ma Kuan and entered the main hall. He was confused. What's wrong with Ma Kuan? Why is he so angry? Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled. Commander Su, you've just demoted him to second in command. How can he be so happy to be my second in command? Su Huanda looked at Fu Mengshan. Isn't that a little too much? Old Ma, he needs to be tortured. Fu Mengshan waved. Don't worry. I know him. He's smart. He'll report tomorrow. And listen to Chu Li, he's an old friend. Let him go. Su Huanda said. Fu Mengshan shook his head and said, his mistake this time caused the death of 2 secret guardians. Sigh, young Chu is right. An incompetent general causes the death of 3 armies. Old Ma is indeed not suitable to stay in the position of centurion. Su Huanda fell silent. He knew about the death of the 2 secret guardians. He looked at Zhou Lingfeng, who was on the ground. Chu Li explained the situation and continued the previous topic. Why didn't the emperor kill him? This involves the mystery of enlightened masters. I can't say much. Anyway, we just need to know that even if the emperor could kill him, he won't. We can't kill him. Killing him will cause more trouble. Fu Mengshan sighed. I've already killed him once. Chu Li said. Did he become stronger? Fu Mengshan asked. Chu Li nodded. Fu Mengshan said, that's why we can't kill him too much. Otherwise, his strength will skyrocket and he can threaten enlightened masters. By then, no one will be able to stop him. Blood will flow like a river. He might even massacre the whole world. Chu Li said, if we cut off his head, will he come back to life? That's even more troublesome. We can't do that. Fu Mengshan said. Su Huanda sighed. If we destroy their bodies, their spiritual light will not be extinguished. After they reincarnate, they will regain their cultivation level at the age of 18 and continue to cultivate the Azura power technique. They will be stronger than they are now. They will regain their memories from their past lives. Chu Li was surprised. Su Huanda shook his head. It's impossible to regain their memories. They can only regain their cultivation level and inheritance. This is the scary part about Azura. Those who cultivate the Azura power technique can be killed in the first 3 levels. Once they reach the 4th level and cultivate the body of Azura, they can't be killed anymore. Sigh, that's why the Tempest Temple banned this technique. It's really scary. They still haven't given up. Fu Mengshan scoffed. They feel that the Azura power technique contains the mystery of reaching nirvana. If their dermic base and cultivation level are like the Azura power technique, they will definitely become Buddha. Chu Li nodded slowly. He could understand the Tempest Temple, the Azura power technique, and the 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood technique of the Titanium Temple shared some similarities. However, the cultivators of the Azura power technique could not step into the 33 heavens to continue cultivating after death. They could only hibernate and seal their bodies. They could not retain their memories from their past lives. It was far inferior to the 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood technique. However, the 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood technique could only be cultivated by those with a superior foundation. There were only a few in the world who could cultivate it. There were only a few in the Titanium Temple, and they had reincarnated countless times. However, the Asura power technique was different. Although it was not easy to learn it, it was a world of difference compared to cultivating divine power. Chuli pondered. If that's the case, we can only imprison this guy and not kill him. That's right, Fu Mengshan said. We can only imprison him, but where to imprison this guy is also a problem. If it really doesn't work, we can only send him to the sky-piercing peak. Su Huan sighed. The sky-piercing peak. Fu Mengshan looked hesitant. Chuli smiled. Where is the sky-piercing peak? The sky-piercing peak is a secret place. It's best that you don't know about it. Su Huan shook his head. Chuli only managed to capture a fleeting image of a giant peak that pierced through the clouds in their minds. They refused to think too much about it. Commander Su, can we subdue someone who cultivates the Asura power technique? Chuli asked. If we can subdue him for our own use, he will be a powerful weapon. Hee. Both of them laughed. Chapter 542. Chuli smiled. Impossible to subdue. Impossible. Both of them shook their heads. Fu Mengshan sighed. Since ancient times, I've never heard of anyone who cultivates the Asura power technique obeying anyone and pledging loyalty to anyone. Chuli frowned. Does Asura have a leader too? I heard there is. Fu Mengshan nodded. But that's because he's born with a noble bloodline. The obedience in his bloodline is different from our world. Su Huan said, you'd better give up. Unless you can cultivate the Asura power technique and become more powerful than him, then there's a chance that he'll obey you. However, even if that's the case, it's most likely that both of you will kill each other, and one of you will fall, so you should just give up and think of a way to suppress him. Chuli pondered and nodded. Fu Mengshan said, this guy is really troublesome. Chuli said, I have an idea. Say it. Fu Mengshan said. Chuli said, give them to the Tempest Temple. Fu Mengshan and Su Huan looked at him. Chuli continued, let the Tempest Temple use something or someone to exchange for the secret guardians that haven't fallen into their hands. That's a good idea. Fu Mengshan and Su Huan looked at each other and nodded slowly. They had been competing with the Tempest Temple in the dark. It was either the Tempest Temple who wanted to deal with the secret guardians or the secret guardians who wanted to infiltrate the Tempest Temple. Every year, they would think of ways to break in and find out the truth. Unfortunately, they failed every time. No one knew if the secret guardians that had fallen into the Tempest Temple's hands were dead or alive. The Tempest Temple acted as if nothing had happened. The secret guardians hall had asked for the secret guardians a few times, but the Tempest Temple gave them a perfunctory reply. Then there was no news from them. They could not barge into the Tempest Temple to snatch the secret guardians. The people we sent over are not assassins. Fu Mengshan said. They're just here to gather information. How many of us have fallen? They don't deserve death. 10. Okay, I'll try. 10. Chuli sighed. Fu Mengshan but it's too difficult to trade one for 10. That's I'm afraid the Tempest Temple knows that we don't want this unknowingly it became 10. We'll have to hand him over to them sooner or later to send any more people. This is a troublesome matter. He shook his head as he spoke. Fu Mengshan full of regret. Su Huan said, he slowly turned I'll consider it a great merit leaving this to if you can exchange for 10 of them. Leave it to little Chu. Yes. Fu Mengshan hurriedly nodded. Young Chu and said, you've had many dealings with courtyard with maids. And some spirit pills. Is the leader of the younger generation of the Tempest Temple. Are the Grand Masters of the Secret Guardians and his words count by ourselves? Since he has spoken, the Tempest Temple should be able to hand him over. Said, the Imperial family has a surreal place where they can comprehend the Grand Master's boundary. Probably not. Chuli nodded in realization. Fu Mengshan said, If
no
they
matter
did not
what,
have their own
he's still
direct
a secret
grandmasters,
guardian.
they
If we really
could
kill
not
him,
be at ease.
it'll be too much.
Then how about two
The
of our
Tempest
grandmasters?
Temple still has a
Chu Li
sense
said,
of propriety.
That's impossible. Fu Mengshan laughed. How many grandmasters do we have in the secret guardians hall? You've already killed 2 of them. Ma Kuan is also a grandmaster. It's enough for you. Chu Li smiled. Then I'll try to talk to Fa Yuan. He looked down at Zhou Lingfeng and pointed a few more times. Once again, he was on the verge of death. Fa Yuan came to an ordinary courtyard and bowed with pressed palms. The 2 young protectors with swords frowned at him. One of the young men said, Master, this is not a place for Buddhist disciples. Please leave. May I ask if you're from the Verdant Cloud brothel? Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms. The 2 young men looked at each other. It seemed that this monk did not come to the wrong place. That's right, it's the Verdant Cloud brothel. Fa Yuan took out an invitation from his sleeve and passed it to the young protector. I've been invited. The 2 of them looked at the invitation and knew it was real. They laughed in their hearts. Who was it that invited a monk to the Verdant Cloud brothel? The young protector knocked on the door. An old man opened the side door, and the young protector passed the invitation over. The old man opened the invitation and looked at it. He opened the door and respectfully invited Fa Yuan in. Master, please enter. Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms and followed the old man into the courtyard. The 2 of them passed through 2 moon doors and came to a small courtyard in the east. They heard the faint sound of a zither coming from inside. Fa Yuan bowed with his eyes closed. His handsome face was calm. This is the Bailon courtyard. The old man knocked on the courtyard door. A pretty maid opened the courtyard door and saw Fa Yuan. She smiled. Are you Master Fa Yuan? Yes, I am. Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms. Master Fa Yuan, please enter. The pretty maid quickly led him in. The sound of the zither coming from inside became clearer and closer to their ears. The pretty maid stood at the bottom of the stairs and raised her voice. Master Han, Master Chu, Master Fa Yuan is here. Fa Yuan, please enter. Chu Li's clear voice was heard. Amitabha Buddha. Fa Yuan chanted again and slowly walked into the living room. The living room was decorated elegantly. There were 4 short tables on the white carpet. There were already people sitting in front of the 3 short tables. An exquisite and beautiful woman in a green shirt was playing the zither with her head lowered. She was focused and quiet. Her figure was slender and tall. Her slender fingers were playing the zither slowly. It was pleasing to the eye. The other 2 men were admiring the music with great interest. There were already dishes and wine on the table. One of the handsome men had his eyes closed. He was tapping his knees in an intoxicated manner to the sound of the zither. The other handsome young man was looking at him with a smile. It was Chu Li. Chu Li put down his silver cup and bowed with pressed palms. He smiled. Fa Yuan, you won't mind if we meet here, right? Form does not differ from emptiness, and emptiness does not differ from form. I'm fine, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li nodded. That's good. This is my good friend, Brother Han Fei. The one playing the zither is his confidant, Miss Bailan. Fa Yuan bowed to Han Fei and Bailan and sat opposite Chu Li. Han Fei said, Should I give up my seat so you can talk? There's nothing that can't be said. Chu Li smiled. It's not something that can't be seen. Almsgiver Chu, why did you invite me here? Fa Yuan asked gently. Chapter 543. Fa Yuan pondered. Chu Li said, If you don't want to trade, then forget it. I'll just throw Zhou Lingfeng to the Li dynasty. I believe the Holy Church of Light will be able to capture him and suppress him. Before he's captured, he'll be able to kill a bunch of elites from the Li dynasty. It'll be the best use of him. Fa Yuan shook his head and sighed. Wrong. Wrong is the Tempest Temple. Chu Li scoffed. If the Tempest Temple really sealed the Azura power technique, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Look at how many innocent people he's killed. Constable, Imperial Inspector, we won't pursue this further. If not, how are you going to compensate for it? Chu Li waved his hand again. Don't tell me he's not a disciple of the Tempest Temple. It doesn't matter if he is or not. It's the Tempest Temple that spread the martial arts. You'll have to bear the consequences of the killings. Fa Yuan shook his head and sighed. If that's the case, then every predecessor who created the martial arts has committed a grave sin. Chu Li said, how is that the same? Anyway, does the Tempest Temple want to trade? We can trade, Fa Yuan said slowly. He was afraid that Chu Li would really do that. Zhou Lingfeng, who cultivated the body of Azura, was a source of trouble. If he continued to cultivate and become stronger, the Tempest Temple would be the first to bear the brunt. They couldn't just ignore him. Moreover, his father was a disciple of the Tempest Temple. Chu Li slammed the table and smiled. Good. Fa Yuan sighed. The situation was stronger than the person. With Zhou Lingfeng in his hands, the Tempest Temple was in a passive position. Chu Li asked, how many secret guardians do you have? This. Fa Yuan said, monks don't lie. We can use 2 secret guardians to trade. Chu Li's hand stopped moving. He said unhappily, 2? Forget it. I'll just throw Zhou Lingfeng to the Li dynasty. 1 for 2, that's not a bad deal, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li replied, exchanging 1 for 2, you sure know how to calculate. You brought the 10 secret guardians together to fight Zhou Lingfeng. Do you think you can beat him? Not to mention 10, even 20, can they beat him? Fa Yuan shook his head slowly. I'm afraid not. Then, isn't it a joke for the Tempest Temple to exchange 1 for 2? Chu Li scoffed. How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. Just return all 10 secret guardians, and I won't take the rest. Logically speaking, 1 Zhou Lingfeng has more than 10 secret guardians, especially to the Tempest Temple. You're raising 10 people for nothing, but you can get 1 Zhou Lingfeng back. That's a great deal. 10. Fa Yuan shook his head. How can there be so many? Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Could it be that you've killed him before? Fa Yuan shook his head. One of them has already passed away. Chu Li's face darkened. The sound of the zither also sank into a low pitch, and the air seemed to freeze. The pretty maid only felt that it was difficult to breathe. Han Fei also felt Chu Li's anger. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and said, this is definitely not the doing of our temple. This person has reached the end of his life and passed away peacefully. You've reached the end of your lifespan. How old are you? Chu Li asked coldly. 142 years old. Fa Yuan shook his head and sighed. Our temple even chanted scriptures for this almsgiver. We treat everyone equally. Chu Li scoffed. You didn't kill him? Fa Yuan said lightly. Our temple wouldn't go so far as to kill him. Chu Li shook his head. He died in your hands anyway. 9 people, plus a bottle of 20 adversity-surpassing pills. Almsgiver Chu, you're asking for too much. Impossible. Fa Yuan shook his head. Chu Li said, is Zhou Lingfeng not worth this? If it's not worth it, then forget it. You're raising those secret guardians anyway, nothing will happen to them. We're not in a hurry either. Even if they come back, they won't be of any use. Almsgiver Chu, why are you joking with me? These secret guardians are all elites and talented, or else they wouldn't have come to our temple, Fa Yuan said calmly. If they were really that powerful, they wouldn't have fallen into your hands. If it wasn't for our strict security, they would have succeeded. Then 10 adversity-surpassing pills it is, no less, or else we'll go our separate ways, Chu Li said in a low voice. Fa Yuan, I won't say it again. His eyes were bright as he stared straight at Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan looked back at him calmly. Their gazes collided in the air, like two floods crashing against each other, trying to change the direction of the other. Han Fei listened to the sound of the guzheng and watched the most outstanding disciple of the Tempest Temple bargain with head Chief Chu like a commoner. He found it very interesting. After a while, Fa Yuan slowly pressed his palms together. Fine, we'll do as you say, almsgiver Chu. Chu Li looked unhappy. It should be 20 adversity-surpassing pills. He was very happy. The adversity-surpassing pill was good stuff. It had the same effect as the spirit-blessing pill. It was a medicine that could bring the dead back to life. Fa Yuan said, "These 10 adversity-surpassing pills are for me. Our temple will only give them to the 9 secret guardians." Chu Li shook his head. "The Tempest Temple is too stingy. Tomorrow, we'll hand them over at the east gate of the fairy's capital." Fa Yuan slowly nodded. The sound of the guzheng stopped. Han Fei laughed. Come, both of you should moisten your throats. Ha ha. Almsgiver Han, I'm sorry. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. Han Fei waved his hand. It's quite interesting. Bai Lan stood up gracefully and walked over to Han Fei before sitting down gracefully. Han Fei laughed. Come, let's drink. Does Master Fa Yuan abstain from alcohol? Yes, I'm fine. Fa Yuan held up his silver cup. Han Fei turned his head and smiled. Master Fa Yuan, I can't help you find a lady. Brother Chu, I found one for you. Chu Li laughed. Han Fei said, Bai Lan, take care of Miss Yuqing. Yes, Bai Lan pursed her lips and smiled. She nodded at the maid. The pretty maid walked out quietly. Chu Li did not refuse. It would be inappropriate to be alone in the verdant Cloud brothel. Moreover, Han Fei had Bai Lan by his side. If he insisted on not having a lady, Han Fei would lose face. Chu Li looked at Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan, the Holy Church of Light, killed a minister-counselor and attracted the attention of the secret guardians' hall because they obtained the second half of the scripture of great light. Does the Tempest Temple know about this? Fa Yuan raised his eyebrows and looked at him. Chu Li sighed. It seems that the Tempest Temple doesn't know about this. Fa Yuan shook his head. The second half of the scripture of great light. His face, which had always been calm, gradually turned serious. As the most outstanding person of the younger generation, he knew more about the secrets of the martial arts world than ordinary people. He knew about the scripture of great light. Chu Li said, they are already so powerful with only the first half. I wonder what will happen if they obtain the second half. The Tempest Temple should be more cautious. Thank you, almsgiver Chu. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and bowed with a serious expression. This was extremely important news to the Tempest Temple. He liked to interact with Chu Li because of this. He would always gain something and would not let himself return empty-handed. Chu Li knew the importance of reciprocity. To gain something, one must first give something. My lady, Miss Yuqing is here, the maid reported from outside. Chapter 544. P.S. The 21st guild leader has a dream. Thank you very much. Everyone could not help but be attracted by her gaze. Dressed in a light pink gown, her slender figure was slender and elegant. Her facial features were soft and beautiful, and her bright eyes seemed to be filled with tears. She was a peerless beauty that was as gentle as water. Han Fei smiled. Brother Chu, are you satisfied? Chu Li smiled and nodded. Thank you for your trouble, Brother Han. Miss Yuqing, please come and have a seat. Thank you, Chief Steward Chu. Xue Qing curtsied and gracefully walked over to sit beside him. The faint fragrance from her body wafted into his nose, and the atmosphere in the living room seemed to become charming. She held the pot in her hand and poured a cup of wine for Chu Li, then passed it to him with both hands. Chu Li accepted the cup with a smile and finished it in one gulp. After thanking him, he turned to Fa Yuan. Does the Holy Church of Light have anything to do with the Li dynasty's imperial court? Fa Yuan nodded. Their relationship is very deep. The disciples of the Li dynasty's royal family will usually enter the Holy Church of Light to cultivate. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He did not really know about this. Fa Yuan let out a long sigh. There are many geniuses in the Li dynasty's royal family. The current Princess Mingyu is the saint of the Holy Church of Light. The saint? Chu Li frowned. Fa Yuan said, she's only below one person and above tens of thousands. Princess Mingyu is the cult leader's disciple. If nothing goes wrong, Princess Mingyu will be the next cult leader. Looks like she's a powerful figure, Chu Li muttered. Could it be that the mastermind behind all this was Princess Mingyu? This Princess Mingyu shines so brightly that she outshines all the younger generation of the Li dynasty's royal family, be it male or female. Not only is her martial arts talent top-notch, but her wisdom is also top-notch. She's quite similar to almsgiver Liu of the Rin Public House. Fa Yuan sighed. It's really not a blessing for the Ji dynasty to have such a person in the Li dynasty. Like Miss Liu, Chu Li smiled bitterly. Looks like we're in trouble. My martial arts is no match for hers. Fa Yuan sighed. Almsgiver Chu must be careful too. Chu Li nodded slowly and sighed. The Holy Church of Light is becoming more and more rampant. Does the Tempest Temple have a way to restrain them? Fa Yuan shook his head. Chu Li asked, if they're here to cause trouble, why can't the four major sects of the Ji dynasty send someone over? Fa Yuan sighed. The Holy Church of Light is too powerful. It's useless to send someone over. Are we supposed to just watch them grow stronger and deal with us? Chu Li frowned. I don't want us to end up as food for the Holy Church of Light and get eaten up. I've witnessed their tactics this time. They're all lunatics who aren't afraid of death. Fa Yuan's face darkened. When Chu Li saw his reaction, he knew that the Tempest Temple was also having a headache over the Holy Church of Light, and they did not have any good ideas. Come on, let's eat. Han Fei smiled and said, you guys really have nothing better to worry about. Of course, there'll be someone taller to handle this kind of thing. The person in charge of the Tempest Temple isn't Great Master Fa Yuan. Brother Chu, you just have to take care of the High Duke's public house and the imperial residence. Why bother about the Holy Church of Light? He raised his silver cup and urged them to drink and eat. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Brother Han, you should also pay attention to the Holy Church of Light. Be careful of their infiltration. It can't be, right? Han Fei smiled. My side is far away from the emperor. Who would worry about it? Li River is the source of transportation. Once there's a war, it'll become a food channel. If it's blocked, there'll at least be problems along the Chongming Road. Chu Li shook his head and said, so let's go back and investigate it. Han Fei's expression turned serious. Is it really that dangerous? Chu Li said, I'm not exaggerating. I've checked it once before. Han Fei nodded slowly. I'll go back and investigate it again. The three of them chatted while drinking and eating. Bai Lan ate a few mouthfuls of food and played 2 songs. Miss Yuqing, who was beside Chu Li, sat quietly and did not speak much. When Chu Li finished his wine, she gently poured more wine and did not move at all. Chu Li chatted with Han Fei and Fa Yuan about some interesting things in the martial arts world. Fa Yuan was very eloquent. He usually thought before he spoke and seemed slow. However, he spoke fluently when he talked about the stories of the martial arts world. He came from a prestigious family and was one level higher than Chu Li and Han Fei. He knew a lot of secrets that they could not come into contact with. The two of them listened to him and were so excited that they ignored the beauty beside them. Chu Li only nodded and smiled at Miss Yuqing, but did not speak. Bai Lan sat beside Han Fei and observed carefully. She realized that Chu Li did not like Yuqing and sighed to herself. Sister Yuqing really admired Chief Chu and specially requested to accompany him today. She did not expect Chief Chu to not like her. Sister Yuqing was so beautiful, pure, and gentle. Her reputation in the verdant Cloud brothel was far better than hers, but Chief Chu did not like her. It seemed that Chief Chu had a different taste. Chu Li and Han Fei drank until they were slightly tipsy. Fa Yuan also felt carefree. When it was late at night, Fa Yuan stood up and said goodbye. Chu Li did not speak much to Miss Yuqing from the beginning to the end. He was very cold. Fa Yuan left first. Miss Yuqing tactfully said goodbye and left. Before she left, she looked at Chu Li with a hint of resentment. Chu Li responded with a smile, unmoved. When they left, only Chu Li, Han Fei, and Bai Lan were left in the main hall. The atmosphere became warm. Han Fei smiled. Brother Chu, are you not satisfied with Miss Yuqing? Chu Li shook his head and smiled. She's a very beautiful lady. Then why are you so cold? I know Brother Chu is not a rude man. Han Fei smiled. Chu Li said, forget it, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you guys. He took out a thin piece of white paper from his sleeve and flicked it gently. The white paper slowly floated towards Han Fei. This is what you wanted, Brother Han. What is it? Han Fei took it. He looked down and suddenly laughed. Great, I finally got this. Chu Li smiled. I finally got it after being so thick-skinned. I'll thank you next time. Han Fei beamed and passed the white paper to Bai Lan. Take a look, my lady. You're free from now on. Bai Lan took the white paper and pursed her red lips. Tears streamed down her face. All right, Brother Chu is here. Han Fei patted her shoulder. Chu Li smiled. I won't disturb the two of you anymore. Goodbye. Chu Li stood up and fists saluted before leaving. Early in the morning, Ma Kuan came to the courtyard of Chu Li's team. However, he found that the courtyard was locked and there was no one there. He cursed in his heart and waited at the entrance of the courtyard. He could guess that he would definitely be put in a difficult position. He could only grit his teeth and bear with it. In the future, when he performed a meritorious deed and was promoted to a centurion, he would settle the score with him. He waited for a long time, but no one appeared. He waited from morning until noon. The sun was already in the middle of the sky, but no one came. He sneered in his heart. He had just performed a little meritorious deed, and he was already so neglectful. He would not last long. He wanted to see what would happen to Chu Li. It was already noon. He should not wait for them. He would eat first and then come back. Thinking of this, he turned around and went to the catering department in the residence. As soon as he entered the spacious catering department, he saw the Ning brothers, Dong Qifei, and Yang Zongwen. They were sitting at a table and chatting happily. Chapter 545. P.S. Update complete. Sigh. I'm not satisfied that I didn't write 10 chapters. Thank you again for your support. He laughed coldly to himself. Even though he wasn't a centurion, he was still a second in command, their direct superior. Yet they dared to tease him. They must be trying to curry favor with the centurion. They had underestimated themselves. They might not be able to deal with Chu Li, but they could deal with the four of them. As he thought of this, he strode over to the four of them. When Ning Buiyuan saw him, he quickly closed fist saluted and smiled. Second in command, Ma. The other three looked up at him and hurriedly cupped their fists in greeting. Ma Kuan sneered. Where did you go this morning? In the morning? The four of them looked at each other and said in surprise, In the courtyard. In the courtyard? Ma Kuan said coldly. The door to the courtyard is locked. Which courtyard are you in? Could it be that you think my eyes are playing tricks on me? Ning Buiyuan quickly said, Second in command, Ma. Did you go back to the original courtyard? We've already changed locations. Ma Kuan's aura suddenly stagnated. He frowned and said, Changed locations? Where is it now? It's in May Air Courtyard. Ning Buiyuan said with a smile, The commander is very generous. He actually gave us May Air Courtyard. Ma Kuan scoffed. How would I not know? Ning Buiyuan was startled. He smiled and said, We didn't find second in command, Ma, either. Ma Kuan was furious, but he could not say that he had been waiting outside the courtyard. That would be too embarrassing. He said coldly, Is the centurion back? Oh, the centurion has something to do in the morning, so he won't be coming. He might come in the afternoon. Dong Chifei said. What is it? Ma Kuan asked coldly. The four of them shook their heads. Ma Kuan scoffed. Don't tell me he's slacking off again. The four of them wisely shut their mouths. Chu Li's voice came from behind him. Second in command, Ma. Are you making things up about me again? Ma Kuan's expression changed slightly as he turned to look at Chu Li. Chu Li was standing behind him with his hands behind his back, yet he did not notice. Furthermore, the four of them did not move at all. It was obvious that Chu Li had done this on purpose. Chu Li looked at him calmly. Why didn't you come this morning? You're unhappy with me, so you don't want to be the second in command, right? Ma Kuan glared at him coldly. Chu Li nodded. Everyone has their own aspirations, so I won't force you. My place is too small for a big Buddha like you, so please leave. After he finished speaking, he sat beside Ning Buiyuan and the others, leaving Ma Kuan at the side. Ma Kuan stood there, his face alternating between green and white. His anger surged, and his fists trembled from time to time. An incomparably strong impulse surged within him, as if it wanted to break free from his control and smash Chu Li to death with one punch. Thinking of the consequences of doing so, he clenched his fists tightly, not letting his fists fly out. He took a few deep breaths to suppress his anger, and his expression slowly returned to normal. Ning Buiyuan and the other three felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. The atmosphere was oppressive. It was a battle between the centurion and the second in command. Small soldiers like them would be in trouble. The centurion could not be provoked, but the second in command, Ma Kuan, was not to be trifled with either. He was experienced and had a wide network. It would be easy for him to take care of them. After Chu Li sat down, he looked at Ma Kuan with interest. He found it interesting that Ma Kuan was trying his best to suppress his anger. Ma Kuan took a deep breath and closed fist saluted. He said to Chu Li expressionlessly, Centurion, I have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Farewell. As soon as he finished speaking, he strode out of the catering department. Ning Buiyuan and the others let out a long sigh of relief and relaxed their bodies. Chu Li could not help but laugh. Are you all that afraid of him? Centurion, he is not to be underestimated. Centurion, you should be careful too. Don't let him bite you in the back, Dong Chifei said in a low voice. Chu Li smiled. Yes, I understand. After lunch, When Ma Kun arrived at the May Air courtyard, he saw Chu Li drinking tea under the plum tree in the courtyard. Dong Qifei was standing beside him, pouring tea and serving him attentively. When he saw Ma Kun, Chu Li looked at him calmly. Ma Kun took a deep breath and walked closer. He closed fist saluted with a straight face. "Centurion." Chu Li smiled and placed the teacup back on the stone table. "Looks like the second in command, Ma, knows how to adapt to the circumstances." "Yes," Ma Kun said in a low voice. Chu Li nodded. "Speaking of which, our personal grudges are nothing much. It's just a few words. It's not a big deal." "Centurion, you are magnanimous. I can't thank you enough," Ma Kun said in a low voice. He spouted nonsense that even he himself did not believe, all so that he could observe Chu Li from a close distance and see what would happen to him. Chu Li said, "Very well, we will work together from now on, and strive to make the May Air courtyard the best courtyard." "Yes," Ma Kun closed fist saluted. Chu Li said, "Second in the May Air, Ma, follow me to a place in the afternoon." "Where?" Ma Kun could not help but ask. Chu Li said, "This Zhou Ling Feng wants to exchange our men with the Tempest Temple. Go to the East Gate. You are a grandmaster. Follow me to take a look, just in case something goes wrong." "Yes," Ma Kun closed fist saluted. Chu Li raised his voice. "Yang Zongwen, help second in the May Air Ma to make arrangements." "Yes." Yang Zongwen came out from the house. Ma Kun followed Yang Zongwen into a room on the east side and quietly sat in front of a desk. He was alone in the room. It was very quiet, and there were already a few files on the desk. He suppressed his anger and grievance and went forward to pick it up. It was news about Zhou Lingfeng. Looking at the list of tragic cases on the file, he shook his head. He was really careless this time. If he knew that Zhou Lingfeng was so powerful, he would not have only sent young Zhou and the other two and let them die for nothing. When he thought about this, he felt a wave of regret and unhappiness. This matter had become a sore point in his heart, but Chu Li kept bringing it up, not letting it go. It was like pouring salt on his wound. It was too hateful. "Second in the May Air, Ma. Let's go," Chu Li said from outside. Ma Kun calmed his emotions, suppressed his anger again, and left the house. The Ning brothers, Dong Qifei, and Yang Zongwen were all in the courtyard, looking at Chu Li with anticipation. Chu Li smiled. "Don't even think about it. Just me and second in the May Air Ma will go." Dong Qifei said, "Centurion, even if we can't help much, we can at least wave the flag and shout for help. It would be good to boost the morale." "The more you act like this, the more guilty I feel." Chu Li smiled. "Two people is enough. All right, you guys, don't say any more." He waved his hand to stop their pleas. Ma Kun came closer and clasped his fists. Chu Li pointed at Zhou Lingfeng, who was on the ground. "Bring him along. Let's go." "Yes." Ma Kun nodded. He cursed in his heart. This kind of small matter should be done by Dong Qifei. And the rest. He was a deputy leader, but he had to be a lackey? "Nian, looking down at me, I beg for forgiveness." The two of them left the secret guardian's hall and rode a horse each. Ma Kun placed Zhou Lingfeng in front of him and hugged him. He felt unspeakably uncomfortable. Zhou Lingfeng was in a coma. He looked like he was dead, but he wasn't, which made Yi Fuqian's hair stand on end. "Centurion, there's actually no need to replace him," Ma Kun said as he rode on his horse. Chu Li said, "We still have to save them. We have to let everyone know that the secret Guardian's Hall will never give up on our own people. To them, it's better if they don't come back," Ma Kun said calmly. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Chapter 546. Chu Li frowned. "They can't be used anymore?" "Yes." Ma Kun was gloating in his heart. Seeing that Chu Li worked so hard for nothing and that the people he exchanged for could not be used, he must be frustrated. Seeing that he was unhappy was the greatest joy to her. Chu Li asked, "Did the commander and the others say that?" "The commander definitely can't say it out loud, or else it would be too chilling, but everyone understands." Ma Cohen shook his head and said seriously, "What if something goes wrong if they are used? Everyone does things for merit and not for mistakes." Chu Li slowly nodded. Although Ma Cohen did not have good intentions, what he said was the truth. These secret guardians that were exchanged were in an awkward situation. They could not be used and could only be kept. In fact, it was no different from being in the Tempest Temple. Ma Cohen said, "Centurion, it's hard to say whether or not they betrayed us. The Tempest Temple's dermic base is profound. Under the influence of day and night, how many people can resist? They might even believe in the dermic base." Chu Li said, "Believing in the dermic base doesn't necessarily mean that they betrayed the secret guardians' hall. As long as they believe in the dermic base, they will have a good impression of the Tempest Temple. This way, it's easy to let down their guard and even unintentionally reveal the secret of the house." Ma Cohen shook his head. "The Tempest Temple is very good at controlling people's hearts." "Yes, that makes sense." Chu Li nodded and urged his horse to speed up. Ma Cohen let out a smile. He finally found some fun. Taking care of Chu Li was a piece of cake. So what if he was strong in martial arts? He was secretly pleased and urged his horse to catch up. However, Zhou Lingfeng, who was in his arms, began to squirm. He knew very well how powerful Zhou Lingfeng was. He killed people like flies. Even the secret guardians, Hall, did not know how many people he had killed. If Zhou Lingfeng woke up, he would be the first to suffer. He quickly sealed Zhou Lingfeng's acupuncture point. Zhou Lingfeng suddenly froze and stopped. Ma Cohen secretly sighed in relief. He looked up at Chu Li, who was already far away, and was secretly angry. Chu Li must have purposely made him suffer to scare him. After a while, Zhou Lingfeng began to move again. He rode with Zhou Lingfeng in his arms, so he was very sensitive to the slightest movement. Seeing that something was wrong, he sealed Zhou Lingfeng's acupuncture point again. Zhou Lingfeng calmed down again. For the rest of the journey, he would seal his acupoints every once in a while. He was extremely busy and fearful. The two of them exited the East City Gate and were greeted by a wide official road. The south and north gates of the ferry's capital were the busiest. Outside the East Gate was the royal enclosure. Other than that, there were some small towns and villages. There were no big cities, so there were not many people. When they came out, there was almost no one on the official road. Chu Li urged the horse to go a mile away and arrived at the side of a dense forest. He raised his voice and said, "F.A. Yuan, come out." "Amit Ba." F.A. Yuan chanted the name of Buddha and descended from the treetop. His gray monk's hat fluttered in the wind as he pressed his palms together. "Almsgiver Chu, we have been waiting for you for a long time." Chu Li replied, "I was delayed by something. Zhou Lingfeng is here. Where are our people?" "Almsgivers, please come out." F.A. Yuan raised his voice. 12 horses came out of the forest. Apart from the 3 middle-aged monks, there were 9 other people. 4 old men, 1 middle-aged man, and 4 young men. Chu Li's gaze slowly swept past each of them, as if he wanted to see through their hearts. After looking at everyone, he raised his hand and closed fist saluted. "I am Chu Li, the Centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall. Thank you for your hard work. Welcome back to the house." The 9 of them closed fist saluted and forced a smile without saying a word. They were all smart people. They knew that even if they returned to the Secret Guardians Hall, their lives would not be much different. They would just find a secluded place to live a peaceful life. It would be no different from the mountain villa of the Tempest Temple. Ma Kuan closed fist saluted. Senior Qin, Senior Feng, Senior Zheng, Senior Ouyang, Ma Kuan greets the four of you. Young Ma? Ma Kuan? A tall and dignified old man hesitated. Senior Qin, I am young Ma. Ma Kuan smiled. Do you still remember me? Ha, I am old and my memory is getting worse. I almost couldn't remember just now. Young Ma, you haven't changed at all. I can still recognize you. Qin Jin laughed. Not bad, not bad. Are you a centurion now? No, I am the second in command. Ma Kuan smiled and pointed at Chu Li. This is the centurion. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Senior Qin, you are. Let's talk when we return to the house. All right. Qin Jin smiled and nodded. He turned to look at the 8 people behind him. We never thought that we would be able to return to the house one day. Chu Li smiled. The house has been thinking of a way and finally found an opportunity. This time, we caught someone who cultivates the Azura power technique and brought him to the Tempest Temple to exchange for all of you. Sai, I really didn't expect this. Qin Jin shook his head emotionally. He looked at Zhou Lingfeng, who was on his horse, and frowned. Feeling Zhou Lingfeng's ferocious aura, he knew that this guy's Azura power technique had reached a high level. He could not be killed. That was why the Tempest Temple was willing to pay a price and release them. Chu Li said, Second in command, Ma. Bring them back to see the commander. I have something to say to Fa Yuan. Yes. Ma Kuan closed fist saluted. Chu Li smiled and nodded to everyone. When they left, Chu Li turned to face Fa Yuan. His face darkened. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. Without waiting for Chu Li to make things difficult, he said, Almsgiver Chu, please forgive us. When we first caught them, we crippled their martial arts. If they did not become ordinary people, the temple would not have been able to let them live. Humph, Tempest Temple. No wonder that person died of old age. It's because you crippled their martial arts. Chu Li said coldly. Fa Yuan sighed and shook his head. That's the only way. Almsgiver Chu should understand. Of course, Chu Li understood. However, he wanted to find an excuse to make things difficult for them. He wanted them to feel that they had suffered a great loss. What about their martial arts? Chu Li scoffed. Don't tell me that you want me to exchange for a group of ordinary people, no matter how many of them there are. They won't be able to match up to Zhou Lingfeng. Fa Yuan shook his head. I have no choice. Chu Li said, No choice? Fa Yuan, you've become so cunning. Your temple has a spirit pill called the life-returning pill. It can help restore martial arts. They can't use it. Fa Yuan shook his head. Their martial arts have just been crippled. Their meridians have not yet stabilized. They can use the life-returning pill to restore their cultivation. After so many years, their meridians have long. The life-returning pill is useless. You don't have to worry about whether it's useful or not. The life-returning pill still has to be given. I have a way to restore them. Chu Li said. Fa Yuan frowned. Almsgiver Chu, it's really useless. Don't waste the pill. He took out a porcelain bottle. There are only 9 of them. If you use one, there will be one less. Our temple doesn't have many of them. The spirit medicine is getting harder to find. I'm afraid it will be extinct soon. I'll use it carefully. Chu Li smiled and took the porcelain bottle. Fa Yuan was quite generous. Without the life-returning pill, there was really nothing he could do to restore their martial arts. Fa Yuan shook his head and looked at him helplessly. He knew Chu Li's character. That was why he prepared the life-returning pill in advance. Otherwise, there would be complications in the deal. Zhou Lingfeng was very important to the Tempest Temple. It was worth it. Chu Li said, the formula for the life-returning pill. Fa Yuan hurriedly shook his head. That's impossible. Chu Li said, nothing is impossible. This isn't the formula for other pills. If the spirit medicine is gone, it's useless for you to keep it. Chapter 547. P.S. Due to the after-effects of the explosion, I'm writing slowly, please forgive me. If that's the case, then forget it. There's still one more bottle. Chu Li did not force it and raised his voice. Fa Yuan gave him another white jade bottle. He said slowly, Almsgiver Chu should know the magical effects of the adversity-surpassing pill. Not only can it bring the dead back to life, but it can also prevent one from going astray. It's also very beneficial for cultivation. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and took the white jade bottle. All right, I understand. Ma Kuan and the others slowly approached the town gate. There were not many people at the east gate. At that moment, for young men were walking out. These 4 young men walked briskly, and their eyes were bright. One look, and anyone could tell that they were martial arts practitioners. Ma Kuan felt that something was wrong. After all, he had been a secret guardian of the imperial house for many years. He was experienced and had a keen sense of danger. His expression suddenly changed. He turned his head and shouted, "Be careful!" He flew up from his horse and landed in front of Qin Jin, blocking a cold light that was shot at him. Bam! He punched the cold light away. It was a flying blade. Damn it! Ma Kuan punched another flying blade away. The 4 young men shot flying blades at the 9 people. Ma Kuan could only block 2 of the flying blades. He could not do anything about the other 7. They did not have any martial arts to begin with. Seeing the flying blades coming at them, they could not do anything. They could only watch helplessly as the flying blades came at them. Ah! Ma Kuan roared. He ignored the flying blades and ran straight at the 4 young men. Ding, 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 ding. In a series of clear sounds, 7 cold lights suddenly appeared and knocked down the flying blades. Chu Li appeared in front of them and waved his hand. Forget it. There's no need to chase after them. Centurion! Ma Kuan broke out in a cold sweat and stopped in his tracks. Chu Li looked at the 4 young men who had disappeared into the forest and shook his head. Ma Kuan quickly came forward and closed fist saluted. Chu Li waved his hand and ignored him. He turned to the 9 people and closed fist saluted. Senior Qin, you must have been frightened. Let's quickly return to the residence. Ma Kuan secretly gritted his teeth. He did not expect this to happen. He couldn't wait to capture the 4 assassins and interrogate them properly. However, he knew that he shouldn't be entangled with them for too long. It was more important to hurry into the city. Before Ma Kuan came, he did not expect that these 9 people would have their martial arts crippled and needed protection. Otherwise, he would have brought more people with him. Chu Li quickly brought everyone into the town and returned to the Secret Guardians Hall. Outside the Secret Guardians Hall, Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda personally stood outside the house as they watched Chu Li and the others approach. Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda had solemn expressions on their faces as they cupped their fists and bowed to the 9 people one by one, then invited them into the residence. Qin Jin and the other 3 were older than Fu Mengshan by more than 20 years. When Fu Mengshan entered the residence, Qin Jin and the others were already old secret guardians. After settling the 9 people down and letting them rest, Chu Li was called into the main hall by Fu Mengshan. I really didn't expect them to be this old. Fu Mengshan shook his head and sighed. Su Huanda said, "It can't be helped. Once one's martial arts is crippled, one will age very quickly." Old Su, how do you think we should settle them down? Fu Mengshan frowned and said, It's a good thing that they're back, but their martial arts have been crippled, so it's no longer suitable for them to work. However, to have them guard the imperial mausoleum, he said as he shook his head, settling these 9 people was indeed a big problem. Commander, leave it to me. Chu Li said, May Air Courtyard is in need of manpower. They're all old secret guardians with rich experience, so it's just right for them to bring Dong Qifei and the others along. It'll be the best use of them. Leave it to you? Fu Mengshan smiled and said, Young Chu, do you know that we haven't even found out if they've betrayed us or not? Chu Li said, They're all fine. Fu Mengshan looked at Su Huanda. At the end of the day, it's best to leave it to young Chu. Since we can determine whether they're loyal or not, we can give them more manpower. It's a pity that their martial arts have been crippled. Old Qin and the others were grandmasters before. Chu Li asked. Fu Mengshan said, Old Qin, Old Feng, Old Zheng, and Old Ouyang are all grandmasters. As for the rest, they're slightly weaker, so I don't dare to send any more grandmasters. Chu Li slowly nodded. There's no use for grandmasters, Su Huanda said. You want to restore their martial arts? Even with the life-returning pill from the Tempest Temple, it's useless. Their meridians have already withered, and the life-returning pill can't restore their martial arts. Chu Li said, I'll think of a way, but let me make this clear. If their martial arts are restored, they'll still belong to the May Air Courtyard. The public house can't simply transfer them. Hee, do you really have a way? Fu Mengshan said curiously. All right, if they can be restored, they'll belong to you too. We won't interfere. Although he could not accept it, emotionally, the truth was the truth. They had worked hard and performed great deeds. Unfortunately, without martial arts, they became a burden. They were originally a burden, so it was good enough to have a place to settle them. If their martial arts were restored, it would be a good thing. The public house would not take advantage of this. Chu Li's work was the secret Guardians Hall's business anyway, so there was no need to compete with him for manpower. Thank you, Commander. Chu Li smiled. Su Huanda's face darkened. He scoffed and said, I heard that they encountered assassins on their way back to town. Is it the Tempest Temple's doing? Chu Li shook his head. I think they're trying to provoke us into fighting the Tempest Temple. Who is it? Su Huanda frowned. Chu Li shook his head. It's not worth investigating. We have countless enemies with the Tempest Temple. That's true, Fu Mengshan said, but it's the first time we've made a deal with the Tempest Temple. Actually, this matter should be thoroughly investigated. There were only a few people who knew about it, but it was leaked. However, Chu Li did not want to investigate, so Fu Mengshan did not plan to force him. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Will anyone say that I'm in cahoots with the Tempest Temple? This is something we allowed. Fu Mengshan waved his hand. You take care of the 9 of them. They've all contributed too much to the Secret Guardians Hall. They should be treated well. Chu Li nodded. The sun was setting, and the courtyard was dyed red. The courtyard that Chu Li and the others were in was far better than the previous courtyard. It was so wide that it could be used as a training ground. The courtyard could accommodate 100 people. This was Plum Blossom Courtyard No. 2. They called it May Air Courtyard. Ma Cohen brought the 9 people to May Air Courtyard, Dong Qifei, and the other 3 came out to welcome them. The Ning brothers looked at one of them excitedly. Ma Cohen smiled. This time, the Ning brothers are all here. Dong Qifei and Yang Zongwen looked at a slightly plump young man among the 9 and smiled. The slightly plump young man stepped forward. Big brother. Second brother. He was slightly shorter and thinner than the other 2. He was also more handsome than the other two. When they stood together, anyone could tell that they were brothers. Ma Kun chuckled. This is a joyous occasion. Senior Chin, from today onwards, everyone will be part of May Air Courtyard, where Centurion Chu. Chin Jin had a dignified aura. Even without his martial arts, Ma Kun still felt inferior. Ma Kun hurriedly smiled. He's talking to the commander. Centurion Chu personally asked the commander to come here. He thinks very highly of all of you. Us old and muddle-headed people can be considered to be freeloaders. The Centurion is really considerate. Chin Jin shook his head. The other 8 people's faces were gloomy. They could guess their endings. Ma Kun smiled. Senior Chin, don't worry. The Centurion told the commander that he'll help everyone recover their martial arts. Dong Chifei glared at Ma Kun. Yang Zongwen shook his head helplessly. This Ma Kun had been restless. He was still causing trouble for the Centurion. How could they recover their martial arts after being crippled for so long? Chin Jin and the others would be overjoyed when they heard the news. Then they would be disappointed and blame the Centurion. Chapter 548. Young Ma, don't try to fool us. Chin Jin waved his hand and smiled. Recover my martial arts? Hee, my martial arts have been crippled for more than 50 years. How can I recover? I'm just an old man who's going to die soon. There's no hope. Ma Kun smiled. Others might not be able to, but Centurion Chu is a young talent. He often does amazing things. It might not be impossible. Really? Chin Jin frowned. Ma Kun said, if anyone else said that, I would never believe it. But since Centurion Chu said it, then I believe it. Think about it. Centurion Chu went from a commoner who did not know any martial arts to a grandmaster in less than 2 years. How amazing is that? Looks like we've met a benefactor. Chin Jin smiled. Even so, he still did not believe it. Having lived for almost a lifetime, of course, he saw Dong Chifei and the others' expressions. Then he looked at Ma Kun's expression and roughly understood that they were trying to embarrass Centurion Chu. They had just arrived and were all crippled. They did not want to get involved in the battle between the Centurion and the second in command. It would be asking for trouble. It's a pity for young Ning. He pointed at Ning Jiyuan and shook his head. But there's no rush. As long as he's back, he can cultivate from the beginning. Ning Jiyuan patted his chest and smiled. Old Master Chin, don't worry. I'll definitely cultivate my martial arts back. If you can cultivate it back, us old men will be relieved. Chin Jin smiled. Ma Kun knew that his thoughts were seen through in front of the shrewd Chin Jin, but he did not mind. He smiled and introduced Dong Chifei and the others to them. Everyone found a stone table and sat down. Dong Chifei asked them about their experiences. How did they live in the Tempest Temple all these years? Did they suffer? Chin Jin chuckled. Without our martial arts, we're just cripples. The Tempest Temple won't do anything to us. Even if they send us deep into the mountains to farm, we can't run away even if we want to. We can only live our lives honestly. I'm an expert in farming now, but I can't do anything else. Dong Chifei asked curiously. Elder Chin, didn't you think of a way to cultivate again? It didn't work, Chin Jin said. In the beginning, I worked hard to cultivate and wanted to escape. Unfortunately, as soon as I cultivated inner force, I would be discovered immediately and crippled again. I could only be an ordinary person. Later on, I gave up. Sigh, these monks are really ruthless, Dong Chifei said, hatefully. Chin Jin shook his head and said, it would be the same for anyone else. We, the Secret Guardians Hall, would kill any spy we catch. It's considered benevolent of them to let us live. It's not a waste of our duty as monks." As they were talking, Chu Li appeared, so they stood up to greet him. Chu Li glanced at the crowd expressionlessly and said in a deep voice, "Dong Qifei, Yang Zongwen, Ningda, Ning Er, help me arrange a place to stay. Elder Qin, let's talk in private." Yes. Everyone dispersed in an uproar. Ma Kuan also left and returned to his house. Chu Li brought Qin Jin to the main hall. A maid gently picked up a teacup and left without a sound. Chu Li picked up the teacup and gestured. Qin Jin also picked up his teacup. The two of them took a sip of tea and slowly put it down. It was so quiet in the house that a pin drop could be heard. Chu Li said, "Elder Qin, I didn't ask you to come over from the commander to let you retire. I need to use you." Qin Jin bowed, slightly. "Centurion, I'm useless. I'm afraid. I'll help you recover your martial arts. You're all elites of the Secret Guardians Hall and are very experienced. You're also grandmasters. You'll be of great help to the May Air courtyard. You don't have to belittle yourself," Chu Li said. Qin Jin smiled bitterly. "Yes, Centurion. We'll do our best to help you." Chu Li nodded. "There's one more thing you need to understand. I'm not only the Centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall, but I'm also the head chief of the Imperial Residence of King and the chief of the High Duke's public house. I'll need your help in some matters." "Yes," Qin Jin said. "We'll only listen to the Centurion's orders." He said this because he was forced to do so. Although they had suffered a lot for the Secret Guardians Hall, the winner takes all. They did not come back for meritorious service. Compared to those secret guardians who lost their lives, their sufferings were nothing. More importantly, everyone would doubt their loyalty. If that happened, even the commander would not dare to use them. They could only become useless once again, no different from when they were in the Tempest Temple. They could not blame the Secret Guardians Hall. Anyone else would have done the same. Since Chu Li wanted to use them, they had no choice but to be loyal to him. They had been suppressed for so many years, so their hearts were even more intense. Not only did their desire for fame, splendor, and wealth not diminish, it became even stronger. They were not willing to die of old age peacefully. Even if Chu Li's intentions were unpredictable, they had to take a gamble and follow him to the end. Chu Li smiled. "All right, Elder Qin, you're a smart man. I'll recover your martial arts now." He took out a box of needles from his sleeve as he said this. Before Qin Jin could say anything, he had already pierced the needles into his body and fixed him in place. After the acupuncture, Chu Li picked up a book and slowly flipped through it. An hour later, Chu Li put down the book and took out a porcelain bottle. He poured out a snow-white pill and stuffed it into Qin Jin's mouth. Qin Jin's eyes widened. He felt his whole body itch as if thousands of ants were crawling in his body. Chu Li suddenly retracted his hand and dozens of needles flew back into the box. Bang! Qin Jin's clothes inflated like an inflated ball. His hair danced in the air. Hee hee. Qin Jin was overjoyed and could not help but laugh. His laughter shook the house, and dust fell. The power that he yearned for had returned to him. He had become a grandmaster again. This was like a dream. He did not even dare to think about it. Chu Li sat firmly on the chair and smiled. "Congratulations." Qin Jin stopped laughing and closed fist saluted. "Thank you, Centurion." Chu Li waved his hand. "It's a fair deal. No need to thank me. Let the next one in." "Yes," Qin Jin said. He was in awe of the calm and indifferent young man in front of him. This kind of skill was not something that others could have. He was so young, but his cultivation level was unfathomable. He was truly a god's favored one. He was worthy of his loyalty. Chu Li smiled as he watched Qin Jin leave. With this group of experienced masters, his strength was more adequate. It would be more convenient for him to do things in the future. He did not have to do everything himself. Later that night, before Chu Li left the Mei Air courtyard, all 9 of them had recovered their martial arts. This night was normal for others, but it was a day of rebirth for them. When Chu Li returned to the imperial residence of King, and Chief Zhu quickly ran out to welcome him. He handed over an invitation with both hands. "Head Chief, there's an invitation for you." Chu Li took it. "There aren't any guests today, right?" Miss Lu came to look for the princess. Chief Zhu said. Chu Li paused for a moment and nodded. He opened the invitation and saw that it was sent by Han Fei. He wanted to congratulate him on his housewarming and taking in a concubine. He wanted to take Bai Lan into his room. Chapter 549. P.S. Due to the aftereffects of the outbreak, I'm writing as slow as a tortoise today. I'll update late. Everyone, please forgive me. The next update will also be late. Let's save it for tonight and read it together. When Chu Li returned to Tianshu courtyard, Xiao Shi was admiring the moonlight in the courtyard. Seeing him enter, Xiao Shi turned her head and glanced at him, her eyes sparkling. "You're always in a hurry. What are you doing?" "About the secret guardian's hall," Chu Li said. Xiao Shi pointed at the opposite side of the stone table. Chu Li sat down and placed the invitation on the stone table. Xiao Shi took it and glanced at it. She glanced at her alluring red lips. Yang Su brought the jade pot and jade cup over and filled it for him. Chu Li thanked him with a smile and sighed. "It's finally over." "Why are you so concerned about the secret guardian's hall?" Xiao Shi asked in confusion. "It's not like it's your business." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "I'll be able to use it in the future." Xiao Shi frowned. King N's imperial residence doesn't seem to be related to the secret guardian's hall, right? A man without foresight is bound to have immediate worries. Chu Li sighed. Has the lady thought about what she would do if King N is no longer around? It's good that he's not here anymore. Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li shook his head and said, "I'm afraid it won't be easy back then." Xiao Shi furrowed her brows and pondered. She understood what Chu Li meant. King N was indeed hateful, but once King N was gone, the imperial residence of King N would no longer live up to its name. An imperial residence of King N with King N and an imperial residence of King N without King N would be completely different. Chu Li said, "We have to make them think twice before they try to bully us. What's the point of being on a mission from the secret guardian's hall?" Xiao Shi said. Chu Li smiled. "I've become a centurion now, so I finally have some real power. Even if I can't protect the imperial residence, I can still receive news in advance." What he said wasn't entirely true. In fact, there was a hidden layer of intention, but because it was too far away, it really wasn't enough for outsiders to know. There were 2 paths to becoming an Empyrean god, and he couldn't be sure which one he would succeed in. He could only prepare for both paths at the same time, so he had to quietly make arrangements, prepare, and slowly work towards that direction. Xiao Shi chuckled. "Aren't you tired of thinking so far ahead?" Chu Li burst into laughter and glanced at her. "All right, I know you're doing this for my own good." Xiao Shi waved her hand, "But there's really no need to rush. Even if King N isn't here, there's still Lung Qing, Lung Qiu, and the others. They're King N's children. The imperial residence of King N is still the imperial residence of King," and Chu Li smiled and said no more. Xiao Shi tossed the invitation back onto the table. "You're going to the Verdant Cloud brothel again?" "Not this time." Chu Li smiled. "I'm going to Brother Han's residence." Xiao Shi scoffed and shook her head. The next morning, When Chu Li arrived at the Secret Guardians Hall, he saw that the martial arts field in the middle of May Air Courtyard was bustling with activity. A total of 14 people were practicing in full swing. Qin Jin and the others seemed to have become 20 years younger. Their gazes were sharp and they were in high spirits. They were unable to control themselves. They had nowhere to use their energy, so they wanted to vent it out. Bam, 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 bam. Qin Jin and Feng Jing were engaged in a brawl. Their fists were overflowing, and the dull thuds were incessant. However, the two of them were flushed with excitement. The others also found their own people to spar with. There were a total of 7 pairs. They had not sparred with anyone for decades. They needed to learn from each other to familiarize themselves with the feeling of fighting. This was to prevent them from losing their lives because they were unfamiliar with their martial arts. Ma Kuan was sparring with Zhu Wenxin. Zhu Wenxin was a dignified, valiant, middle-aged man. He spoke little. His martial arts was fierce and overbearing. He was evenly matched with Ma Kuan. Ma Kuan suddenly called out, "Hold on." Zhu Wenxin took a step back. His face was filled with excitement. The feeling of using martial arts again was amazing. His blood was boiling and he could not control himself. He wanted to keep fighting. Ma Kuan raised his voice. "Centurion, why don't you join in the fun?" Chu Li looked at him and said lightly, "I won't join in the fun." "Don't." Ma Kuan quickly said, "Everyone is playing. Let's join in the fun." Everyone knew that Ma Kuan was provoking him again. They secretly shook their heads. It seemed that the Centurion and the second in command still had to fight for a while. Ma Kuan was not convinced. The Centurion did not seem to be in a hurry to suppress him. It looked like he was indulging him. Dong Qifei and the others were secretly worried. Was he looking for a chance to kill second in command Ma? Ma Kuan saw that Chu Li did not move. He smiled. "Centurion, everyone knows that your martial arts is outstanding. You're a genius, but we've never had the chance to experience it. Why don't you show us what you've got? It'll broaden our horizons." Dong Qifei's eyes widened in excitement. He could not wait for Chu Li to agree. He was purely curious to see how powerful the Centurion was. Chu Li hesitated for a moment. He nodded. "That's fine too. It's hard to refuse your kindness. Second in command, Ma. Shall we have a few moves?" "Sure." "Yes," Ma Kuan quickly agreed. Chu Li smiled. "How about this? We'll limit it to 10 moves. We'll stop after 10 moves. That way, we won't have to fight endlessly." "All right, 10 moves." Ma Kuan laughed. He was secretly excited. He had finally found a chance to embarrass Chu Li. His martial arts was not as good as the second in command Ma Kuan's. What was there to be arrogant about? This world was still determined by martial arts. Chu Li slowly walked to the center of the field. Everyone took a few steps back. They made way and looked at the two of them standing opposite each other. "Centurion, I'm sorry." Ma Kuan growled and threw a punch. The heavenly demonic orb fell to his precordium. Suddenly, a surge of energy surged around him. It was endless. It was as if he could break the sky with one punch. Chu Li faced Ma Kuan's fist force head-on. Bam! The fist force hit his body. Chu Li did not lose his momentum. His fist hit Ma Kuan. Bam! Ma Kuan was thrown out like a rock. He flew for more than 10 meters and crashed into the courtyard door. There was a loud noise. The courtyard door almost broke. Chu Li lightly shook his white robe. He acted as if nothing had happened. The heavenly demonic orb returned to his precordium. Ma Kuan spat out a mouthful of blood. He crawled up with a gloomy face. "Did I hit you too hard?" Chu Li smiled and shook his head. How about another punch? No need. Ma Kuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He scoffed. Centurion, you really have good martial arts. I'm impressed. Chu Li smiled. Second in command, Ma. Let's spar again when we have the chance. We didn't get to enjoy ourselves. Ma Kuan gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. Chu Li was obviously calling him useless. He did not get to enjoy himself because he did not get to enjoy himself. Qin Jin praised, as expected of the centurion, good martial arts. The rest of the people praised as well. They were now loyal to the centurion, not the second in command. They did not have to listen to him. Chu Li smiled and waved his hand. I won a little unfairly. The second in command was not prepared. I ambushed him. It's nothing. He. Ma Kuan forced a smile. He could say that he wanted to ambush him. His palm strike seemed light, but it contained all of his inner energy. However, when his fist landed on Chu Li's body, Chu Li did not seem to be injured at all. It was like he was scratching an itch. It was really scary. He was afraid and did not dare to provoke Chu Li anymore. If Chu Li really wanted to continue the spar, and he took another 2 punches, he might be crippled. He had to be careful. Chu Li asked, Second in command, are we really not going to spar anymore? There's really no need. Ma Kuan forced a smile. Chu Li nodded. All right, everyone stop practicing. Let's investigate a new case. The autumn wind camp extermination case. Upon hearing about the case, Yang Zongwen asked, Centurion, was it not done by Zhou Lingfeng? Chu Li shook his head. There's something fishy about this case. You guys investigate it carefully. I'll go back first. Chapter 550. A bright moon hung in the sky. Han Fei's residence was brightly lit. In the main hall, Chu Li and Han Fei sat at a round table made of purple wood. The table was huge and could accommodate more than 10 people. It was very spacious for 2 people. The silver cups shone under the light. Han Fei was tipsy and in high spirits. Bai Lan was wearing a dark green gown that covered her graceful figure. She looked more elegant and less charming, as if she was a different person. She held the silver pot and poured wine for the 2. She pursed her lips and smiled without interrupting. Brother Chu, do you have any feelings for Miss Yuqing? Han Fei looked at him with a smile and shook his head. I really don't believe that any man can reject her. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Luckily you didn't ask her to come. If she came, I would leave after a while. Why? Han Fei was displeased. Your way of thinking is weird. She's such a beautiful lady and gentle as water. You're not moved at all. Instead, you avoid her like a snake or a scorpion. Is it because of her identity? Chu Li looked at Bai Lan. Bai Lan forced a smile. Chu Li laughed. It's because of her identity. Sigh. Han Fei pointed at him, picked up the silver cup, and drank it in one gulp. Brother Chu, when did you become so well-behaved? I remember that you were a distinguished guest in the New Moon brothel, and the ladies liked you very much. Chu Li waved his hand and smiled. Do you know Miss Yuqing's identity? What identity? Han Fei smiled. Don't tell me she's a traitor. Chu Li smiled. Not really. Han Fei sat up straight, his eyes flashing. It can't be. She really has another identity. Bai Lan sighed in relief and looked at Chu Li gratefully. She initially thought that Chu Li disliked Sister Yuqing's identity as a lady from the Verdant Cloud brothel. She was relieved that it was another identity. She filled the silver cups for Han Fei and Chu Li again. Han Fei took the opportunity to pick it up and took a sip. Chu Li said, a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain. Uffed. Han Fei spat out the wine in his mouth and started coughing. Bai Lan put down the silver pot and tapped his back. Han Fei continued to let her serve him, but he glared at Chu Li. Brother Chu, don't joke around. No matter what, he could not believe that a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain had become a lady of the verdant cloud brothel. This was like a princess becoming a beggar. It was unbelievable. The difference in status was too great. Chu Li said faintly, "Otherwise, why would I avoid such a beautiful lady?" "I thought it was your Ji dynasty's #1 beauty," Han Fei said with a smile. Chu Li glared at him. Han Fei said, "No one will believe your words." A disciple of the Amethyst Mountain was practically unattainable. How could she become a lady in the verdant cloud brothel? Right, Bai Lan? Bai Lan nodded lightly. "Chief Chu, are you mistaken? Sister Yu Qing doesn't know martial arts." "If I couldn't hide it from you, why would I still be in the verdant cloud brothel?" Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Sigh. Han Fei paused for a moment and finally accepted it. "Yes, she can hide it from us, but she can't hide it from you, a secret guardian of the imperial house. No wonder you're in this line of work to be able to find out about this. You're really hard-hearted seeing such a beautiful lady and still suspecting her." Chu Li smiled. He could not possibly say that it was not the secret guardian of the imperial house who found out, but he himself did, right? He had always underestimated the Amethyst Mountain. The disciples of the Amethyst Mountain also had martial arts that concealed their cultivation level, which was not inferior to the Holy Church of Light. In fact, it should be obvious that the martial arts of the Amethyst Mountain were good at assassination. How could they not have such antique martial arts that concealed their cultivation level? If that's the case, she approached you with ill intentions? Han Fei took another sip of wine to suppress his shock. Chu Li said, "Who knows, sometimes it's hard to tell if she's a friend or foe. One moment she's a friend, the next moment she's an enemy, the next moment she might become a friend. Lu Yurong was like that, and so was F.A. Yuan. Your words give me goosebumps, as if we'll become enemies." Han Fei waved his hand and said, "Then what are you going to do? Just avoid her?" "I'll avoid her for now." Chu Li said, "She doesn't know that I've seen through her." "Who knows?" Han Fei shook his head and said, "I'm completely in the dark." "So it's better to be careful," Chu Li said with a smile. "The waters of the fairies' capital are too deep. You don't know who can give you a fatal blow. You're lucky that the person you met was Miss Bai Lan. If it was Miss Xue Qing, wouldn't killing you be a piece of cake?" Han Fei laughed and said, "Don't scare me." Bai Lan said, "I really couldn't tell. Sister Yu Qing has a great reputation, but her standards are very high. She doesn't usually meet people." Sigh. Amethyst Mountain. Han Fei shook his head again. Although he was also a grandmaster, he still looked up to the Amethyst Mountain. A sect like the Amethyst Mountain had countless grandmasters. Someone like him was not worth mentioning in front of the Amethyst Mountain. Chu Li said, "I have a deep grudge with the Amethyst Mountain. It's better to avoid them. Come, let's drink." "Drink." Han Fei raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. When Chu Li returned to his courtyard, it was already late at night. The surroundings were asleep. The moon was especially bright. Tianshu courtyard was already asleep. Xiaoshu was in a deep sleep. The courtyard beside Xiaoshu was guarded by Zhu Tianhua and a few others, but they did not notice that there was someone sitting in his courtyard, dressed in white like snow, her body like white jade. It was Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong sat quietly by the stone table, deep in thought. Chu Li suddenly sat opposite her. Lu Yurong looked up and glanced at him. Her eyes glimmered. She said lightly, "I have something to tell you." "You don't come without a reason," Chu Li said. "Have you heard of the cloud-slashing ancestor?" Lu Yurong said. Chu Li thought about it, then shook his head. Lu Yurong said, a legendary character from 500 years ago, a little similar to you. In just a few years, an ordinary person who knew nothing about martial arts became a grandmaster. He had exceptional talent, but he also had exceptional knowledge. I'm not that legendary. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Lu Yurong glared at him. Chu Li smiled. All right, what's next? Lu Yurong scoffed. Before the cloud-slashing ancestor died, he left behind a cloud-slashing treasure manual, which recorded all his knowledge. Cloud-slashing treasure manual. Chu Li shook his head. He had never heard of it. Lu Yurong said, "It said that this cloud-slashing treasure manual recorded the martial arts that the cloud-slashing ancestor obtained by chance. It's a set of martial arts that surpasses the 4 major sects, or else he wouldn't have such achievements." "You believe that?" Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong said lightly, "It might not be fake." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. "Could it be that someone cultivated it according to the secret manual?" Lu Yurong nodded slowly, then sighed. 300 years ago, someone obtained this secret manual, cultivated the swordsmanship, and dominated the world. That person was the famous cloud-slashing swordsman. Unfortunately, this secret manual disappeared along with him. Cloud-slashing swordsman. Chu Li pondered, then nodded slowly. He had heard of it before. Chapter 551. P.S. Update complete. I've heard of this cloud-slashing swordsman. It's said that he has never been defeated. Chu Li muttered, although he retired quickly. His swordsmanship is indeed outstanding. After the cloud-slashing swordsman debuted, he challenged all the masters of swordsmanship in the world. He became famous by stepping on others' reputations and offended too many people. Lu Yurong shook her head. So no one knows where he retired, and the cloud-slashing treasure manual was destroyed along with him. It's appeared again. Now? Chu Li frowned. Someone got it? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. Someone got the cloud-slashing treasure manual. It can't be. Chu Li smiled. Who would let others know that they got it? Sometimes it's a coincidence. It doesn't mean that others won't know even if you don't want them to. Lu Yurong shook her head. But no one knows who got it. Chu Li muttered, "It's just a rumor." Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. It's just a rumor. If there was actual news, it would have shocked the world. The cloud-slashing treasure manual is a great temptation to everyone. Think about it, to enter the Grandmaster's boundary in just a few years, and without the surpassing state. How amazing is that? Who could keep their composure? Chu Li stood up and muttered with his hands behind his back. Lu Yurong said, "Are you tempted?" Chu Li smiled and looked at her. "Do you want it too?" Lu Yurong smiled. Who wouldn't want it? How about we work together? Work together? Chu Li said, "We'll read the manual together?" Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. Chu Li smiled. "Would you be so kind?" He knew that Lu Yurong had always wanted to surpass him. The cloud-slashing treasure manual was an opportunity. If he could really get it, even if he could not change the martial arts in the manual, he could still use it as a reference and improve himself. I'm wondering if there's anything strange about this. Chu Li paced with his hands behind his back. The moonlight was like water and the surroundings were cool. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. "At least you're not out of your mind." "You think it's strange too?" Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong said, "I don't know if it's a trap, but I feel that once the secret manual is out, the world will be shaken. It's a good opportunity to take the risk." Great minds think alike. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong scoffed. "You're now a secret guardian of the imperial house, and you've even become a centurion." She was very satisfied with Chu Li's reaction. He was worthy to be her opponent. If it were anyone else, they would have wanted to snatch the cloud-slashing treasure manual impatiently the moment they heard about it. As the saying went, greed blinded one's mind. Once one was driven by this thought, one would be at a disadvantage. One's horizons determined one's knowledge and wisdom. If one's state of mind was not strong enough, one's wisdom would be limited. Chu Li was able to jump out immediately and not be affected by the secret manual. Instead, he pondered over the key points and felt that something was amiss. He was indeed extraordinarily intelligent. It was no wonder that he could always surpass Meng Qi. Meng Qi had only come up with this idea after a night of contemplation. Chu Li chuckled. You also contributed to this centurion. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. You should investigate this matter properly. But let's make this clear. If this secret manual really appears, we'll snatch it and read it together. No problem, I promise you. Chu Li smiled. You're more well-informed than I am. Why would I need to investigate? Lu Yurong said, I got the news by chance. In terms of the number of spies, the secret guardians of the imperial house have the advantage. You're not allowed to keep it for yourself. If there's news, I'll inform you. We'll work together. Chu Li said, I keep feeling that something's wrong. Could it be that someone is manipulating things? Even if they knew it was a trap, there would still be countless people who would step into it. This is your style, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li's actions were always overt. Even if one knew it was his plan, one could only brace himself and move forward. There was no other choice. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. If it was him, he could really set up such a trap. Was it a trap set up by someone, or did the secret manual really appear? Lu Yurong said, I heard that king and has a son. Chu Li smiled. Even King Jing knows about it. I didn't expect King and to be so lucky. He's actually a disciple of the Titanium Temple. What a blessing from the heavens. Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li said, he's cultivating in the Titanium Temple. One day, he'll leave the temple. Lu Yurong sized him up. Aren't you worried? Worried about what? Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong said, you're pressuring King and to the point where he can't even breathe. But once King and Sun returns, with the power of a disciple of the Titanium Temple, you won't be able to suppress him anymore. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Lu Yurong frowned and looked at him. Indeed, he was not worried at all. It was strange. What does King Jing mean? Chu Li smiled. You're a little uneasy, aren't you? Not to mention that he's a disciple of the Titanium Temple. Even if he can really cultivate divine powers and cultivate the 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood, King Jing has nothing to fear. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li smiled. You don't mean it. Lu Yurong scoffed. This little monk has a good temperament, right? From Chu Li's calmness, she deduced that this little monk was a good person. Otherwise, he would not have reacted like this. King Jing thinks too much. Chu Li smiled. It's not too late to talk about it after King En's martial arts recovers. Lu Yurong said, if King En becomes the emperor, you won't be able to live. Chu Li said, that's true. Then you're not anxious at all. Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Isn't it too early to talk about this? What are you hiding from me? Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li was definitely a person who thought far ahead. Yet, he was so indifferent. It was obvious that he had something that she did not know. He was certain that King En would not become the emperor. It's late. I won't be seeing you off. Chu Li fist saluted. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him and left in a fluttering white robe. Chu Li looked at the protectors around him and shook his head. Although Lu Yurong's light body technique was amazing, their alertness was poor. Chu Li arrived at the May Air courtyard of the Secret Guardians Hall and immediately called Qin Jin in. Qin Jin and the others were cultivating in the martial arts field. They were cultivating with greater vigor than the younger people. However, Ma Kuan was nowhere to be seen. It was obvious that he was hiding at home to recuperate. Elder Chin, have you heard of the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual? Chu Li asked. Qin Jin entered Chu Li's house and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Just as he was about to sit down, he was stunned. The Cloud Slashing Swordsman is known as the world's #1 swordsman. Centurion, you know about the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual too? Chu Li said, I heard news that the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual has appeared in the martial arts world again. It has appeared again. Qin Jin sighed. It seems that another top-notch master will appear. Is there this secret manual in the Imperial House's secret storage? Chu Li asked. Qin Jin shook his head. The Imperial House did not get it. Even the 4 major sects are looking for it. I suspect that someone is playing tricks, Chu Li said with a frown. Qin Jin said, if it really is the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual, I'm afraid that everyone would want it. Even the commander, and the others want it too. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Qin Jin said, it is said that the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual is related to the Enlightened Mastery's boundary. Chapter 552. Heavenly God Realm. This was his Achilles' heel. Just a touch was enough to hit him. All of his hard work was for the sake of reaching the Heavenly God Realm. Now that he heard that this Cloud-Slashing Treasure Manual actually involved the great mystery of the Heaven God Realm, he was instantly tempted and his heartbeat quickened. Then he shook his head and regained his rationality. If that was the case, the Cloud-Slashing Ancestor would have become a heavenly god, and the Cloud-Slashing Swordsman would also be a heavenly god. If he was a heavenly god, why would he need to live in seclusion? No one would dare to provoke him even if he didn't live in seclusion. As such, even if the great mysteries of the heavenly god realm were truly profound mysteries, they would most likely be useless in becoming a heavenly god. What he needed to do was to walk his own path and not be distracted by other things. As for other people's schemes and whether there were outsiders manipulating them, he didn't care that much. This was something that the emperor should worry about. He only needed to take care of himself. Thinking of this, he regained his composure and smiled. Seems like it is indeed a good thing. Is Elder Qin interested? Qin Jin waved his hand and chuckled. I'm just a bag of old bones. So what if I obtained the secret manual? Could it be that I'll abandon my current mental cultivation method and change to another mental cultivation method? Isn't that just asking for trouble? Chu Li smiled. Elder Qin's words are not entirely true. As the saying goes, the older one gets, the more unyielding they are. Moreover, it involved the celestial deity realm. If he could really reach the celestial deity realm, his lifespan would increase greatly. How could Qin Jin not be tempted? Qin Jin said helplessly, Yes, I can't hide it from you, Centurion. However, I'm very satisfied. Being able to regain my martial arts and return to the Secret Guardians Hall has been the life I've wanted to live for the past few decades. As for the Cloud-Slashing Treasure Manual, of course, I want to get my hands on it, but I know my own capabilities. It's impossible. Chu Li said, I'm guessing that once the Cloud-Slashing Treasure Manual is revealed, there won't be any peace. Find more people to investigate this matter. Can your original spies still be used? Qin Jin nodded. Most of the old guys are not dead yet. His kung fu was crippled, but he did not die. Originally, those spies' kung fu was not weak, so it was not easy for them to die. Other than those who died accidentally, most of them were still alive and healthy. We need to make a net by ourselves, Chu Li said. Qin Jin said slowly, I understand. If one wanted to make a contribution in the Secret Guardians Hall, he would need to have his own personal network of relationships and information network. Then, he would have to combine it with the Secret Guardians Hall's common information network in order to be ahead of the others. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to stand out and make a great contribution just by relying on the information within the hall. Chu Li had already become a centurion at such a young age, so of course he had to maintain his momentum. Otherwise, he would be stepped on by those who came after him. Qin Jin was unwilling to accept this. He understood what Chu Li needed and had already contacted him in secret. Chu Li said, "The High Duke's public house and the Jiangchuan Alliance gather all their information together. I'll introduce them to you in 2 days." "Yes," Qin Jin said in a low voice. Chu Li waved his hand. "Gather more information about the Cloud/Slashing Treasure Manual and see if you can join in the fun." Yes, Qin Jin did not agree to wade into these muddy waters. The waters were too deep, and it was easy to lose soldiers and generals. However, he saw that the centurion was young and impetuous. He might not listen to him, so it was better to speak less. He watched as Qin Jin left. Yang Zongwen's voice came from outside. "Centurion, come in." Chu Li put down the teacup. Yang Zongwen came in and closed fist saluted. "I've investigated the case of the Autumn Wind Camp." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. "It wasn't done by Zhou Lingfeng, was it?" "It wasn't Zhou Lingfeng. It didn't seem to be done by one person. It was done by a certain faction. It could be a grudge between factions." Yang Zongwen shook his head. "It doesn't make sense to destroy the entire camp." Chu Li shook his head. "The Autumn Wind Camp is not a big camp. The enemy can't be that strong." "Yes," Yang Zongwen said. "According to the records, some of their fatal injuries were caused by knives, some by swords, and some by palm force and fist force. The culprits' martial arts were uneven. It should be a faction." Chu Li frowned. "Faction. This has already involved an innate master, so it's under the public house's jurisdiction." Yang Zongwen said, "It's within the boundaries of the Ji public house. The secret guardian's hall can't intervene." Chu Li muttered, "The Ji Ren public house is really troublesome." The Ji public house was located on Ji Ren Road. It was adjacent to the Ren public house. The relationship between the Ji public house and the imperial court had always been delicate. When it came to such a matter, the imperial court could not simply intervene. Otherwise, it would be violating the ancestral system. Even if the Ji public house crippled the person, the imperial court would not be able to say anything. Yang Zongwen said, "Our people can't go there to take a look. It's already under the control of the Ji public house." Chu Li said, "It's 1,000 miles away from here, right?" "Yes," Yang Zongwen nodded. "I'll go take a look myself," Chu Li said. Yang Zongwen said, "Then the centurion must be careful. The Ji public house is heavily guarded. No one is allowed to go near. Moreover, the Ji public house is strong. They're used to being overbearing." "I'll go alone. You guys continue to keep an eye on this matter," Chu Li said. "Yes," Yang Zongwen said. He was confident in the centurion's light body technique. If he went alone, no one would be able to catch up to him. A bright moon hung high in the sky. The night was dark. Everything was quiet. Chu Li stood in front of a desolate mountain stronghold. The stronghold had only been destroyed a few days ago, but it felt like it had been in ruins for hundreds of years. There were burn marks everywhere. The murderer had set a fire after destroying the stronghold. After all, it was a mountain fire. It was impossible to burn everything completely. The corpses were still there, which was why this tragedy was discovered, and the imperial court sent people over to investigate. How could the secret guardian's hall not have received news of such a big case? The secret guardian's hall had two responsibilities. One was to intervene when the imperial court was unable to solve the case. The other was to investigate the performance of the imperial court officials in the case, and if there were any corrupt people, they would be caught. Unfortunately, once it was confirmed that there was an innate master, the case would be immediately transferred to the Ji public house. The imperial court could only look at it. They had no right to dispose of it. and the secret guardian's hall could not intervene. The night was like water. Under the observation of Chu Li's omniscient mirror, everything within a 5-mile radius could not be hidden. The stronghold was empty. Everything that could provide clues had been taken away. Chu Li's figure flashed. He appeared under a large rock and found the first half of a broken knife at the bottom of the rock. Then he pressed lightly. His palm energy shook out a short sword that could cut iron like mud. Then his figure flashed continuously. Here and there, he found a bunch of things. These were all hidden in the soil, on trees, or in the corner of the wall. It was easy to find, but also easy to ignore. There were people from the G public house guarding the surroundings, but they did not care. After all, it was almost impossible for anyone to come to such a dangerous place. Chu Li took a bunch of things, appeared in a forest far away, and began to use the all-seeing divine power. One by one, he was picked up and put down. He tried his best to maintain the all-seeing divine power. He was a little tired and let out a sigh of relief. More than 20 small things. In the end, there was only one thing left in his hand. It was the first half of the broken knife. He thought for a while, then smiled. The owner of this broken knife was still alive. It was very likely that he was one of the murderers. Chapter 5, 53. P.S. I'm at my limit, gritting my teeth and writing very slowly. Please forgive me. I may not be able to update in time, but I'll try my best to complete 6 chapters. Chu Li looked at the remnants and felt a little melancholy. Life was so weak. It was not easy to live, but easy to die. The owners of these little things were still lively just a few days ago. Everyone had their own dreams and probably wanted to conquer the world, but now they were corpses. He shook his head, put down the short sword, and picked up the broken knife again. This knife was probably cut by the short sword, and the owner of the broken knife was still alive. It was very likely that he was the murderer, or was he lucky to have survived? The biggest possibility was that he was the murderer, but which faction was he from? He activated the all-seeing divine power again, and at the same time, he was ready to use God's limbs to find that guy. He suddenly opened his eyes. He had suddenly lost contact, and the owner of the broken knife was also dead. It was really strange when he was in a daze just now. Thinking about this, the heavenly demonic orb above his heart fell, and his body was instantly filled with endless power. His 5 senses improved, and his spirit became stronger and sharper. He used the all-seeing divine power again, and disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared in a city, and the sound of killing was everywhere. Under the moonlight, 2 groups of people were fighting, and people fell from time to time. It was tragic and cruel. He stood there for a few breaths. More than 20 people had fallen, and the remaining people were still fighting. Screams and curses were endless, and the curses were filled with despair and madness. Chu Li frowned and glanced at a middle-aged man in the corner. It was the owner of the knife, and he was already dead. He stood in the shadows and looked around. There were 4 innate masters, and the rest were acquired masters. In his eyes, they were not worth mentioning, but their martial arts were more than enough to kill people, and they fell one by one. One side had 10 people, and the other side had 112 people. The 10 people were like hungry wolves, and the 112 people were like sheep. They had almost no power to resist, and could only fight in vain. They could not stop falling one by one. Their eyes were bloodshot, and even if they could not win, they wanted to perish together. Unfortunately, they were all acquired masters, and they were too far behind their opponents. They could not even perish together, and could only be killed one by one in vain. Chu Li was not in a hurry to intervene, and stood at the side to find the person in charge. The 2 middle-aged men were both innate experts. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand in the battle. You with the surname Ling, don't be too proud. A short and fat middle-aged master said in a deep voice, Even if you kill us, it's useless. Another handsome middle-aged man sneered and said, If you don't have that fate, then don't reach out. You think you can snatch it? The chunky middle-aged man laughed. To tell you the truth, I destroyed it after reading it. Even if you kill me, you won't get the secret manual. Ha ha, the handsome middle-aged man said coldly, I don't believe that you are willing to destroy it. What's there to be reluctant about? If I can't get it, no one else can. The pudgy middle-aged man laughed and said, I knew I couldn't hide it from others, and I couldn't protect myself. But in my mind, who would dare to kill me? Humph, if I can't kill you, then the people around you can forget about living. The handsome middle-aged man sneered. Kill them one by one. Let's see if you can still endure it. Kill, kill, kill. The day I obtained the secret manual, I knew that no one would be able to live. The pudgy, middle-aged man laughed maniacally. If you kill me, no one will be able to get it. This **T secret manual will disappear from this world. Wu Ji, if you hand over the secret manual, I can spare your lives. The handsome middle-aged man said in a deep voice, I, Ling Haya, am a man of my word. Humph, I don't trust you. Wu Ji sneered. Ling Haya said, Since you're going to die sooner or later, why not take a gamble? Maybe I'll really keep my word. In your dreams. Wu Ji curled his lips and said, You're just toying with me. Ever since the day I obtained the secret manual, I knew that I would die sooner or later. But I'm not willing to die, so I'll bring the secret manual with me to my death. Ha ha, ha ha. Since you know, then why bother snatching it? Ling Haya shook his head and said, If you don't have that fate, you'll die the moment you reach out. Ling, don't talk about me, you're the same. Wu Ji suddenly jumped onto the roof. You think you have that fate? Everyone knows that how Ransex Ling Haya got the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual. How Ransex Ling Haya got the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual. He was an innate master. When he shouted with all his might, his voice traveled more than 2 miles. You're courting death. Ling Haya's expression turned cold as he glared at Wu Ji. All right, Wu, I'd like to see how stubborn you can be. He turned his head to look. His 10 disciples were far more powerful than the High Ridge Association. If it was not for the fact that the High Ridge Association had an innate master, the battle would have ended long ago. Wu Ji's shout was troublesome. There should be many people who knew about it, so it would take some effort. Wu Ji laughed and said, Ling, if I'm not having a good time, don't even think about having a good time. You're courting death. Ling Haya was so angry that he laughed. His body suddenly sped up and swept past Wu Ji like a wisp of smoke. Wu Ji wanted to dodge, but was powerless. He could only watch helplessly as a palm hit his chest. He could not help but fly up. Bam! Wu Ji landed on the ground. His entire body was in pain. Wah! He spat out a mouthful of blood, but he felt much better. Ling Haya landed next to him and quickly sealed a few of his acupuncture points with the tip of his toe. He clapped his hands, his face pale. He had used a secret skill just now, so the blood in his body was surging. He was not much better off than Wu Ji. After he sealed Wu Ji's acupuncture points, he shot to the other side to deal with the innate master with his companions. The innate master was an old man. When he saw that the situation was not good, he turned and ran. Ling Haya signaled his companions to chase after him while he carried Wu Ji into the house. He was prepared to torture him to make him speak. He had to obtain the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual no matter what. Chu Li shook his head and sighed as he watched from the side. Gree was like this. It often costs one his life. Wu Ji was like this, and so were his subordinates. They had destroyed the Autumn Wind Camp, but in the end, they were destroyed by the Hao Ran faction. It was a cycle of life and death. It was really karma. He could imagine that the Hao Ran faction was going to be in trouble. He glided to a bedroom in the house and moved the bed. He pulled out a brick from the corner of the wall and saw a thin book wrapped in oil paper hidden inside. He did not expect that the Cloud slashing treasure manual would be so easy to obtain. Wu Ji said that he had destroyed it to protect himself. He really could not bear to destroy it. Chu Li opened the oil paper. Inside was a yellowed silk book. There were only a dozen pages, and the words Cloud slashing treasure manual were written in bold calligraphy. It was imposing. He opened it slowly and read page by page. The first 3 pages were a set of strange heart techniques. The last 12 pages were a set of sword techniques. Other than that, there was nothing else. It was hard to believe that this was the famous Cloud slashing treasure manual. This set of heart techniques was a little strange. He could not tell. As for the set of sword techniques at the back, it was also a little strange. Chu Li frowned and pondered. In the end, he shook his head and kept the secret manual in his bosom. He placed the brick inside and moved the bed back. Everything returned to its original state. Then he disappeared in a flash. No one knew that he had appeared. He returned to the imperial residence of King, and in a flash, the imperial residence of King, and was already in a deep sleep. He sat in the courtyard under the moonlight. He lowered his head and opened the Cloud slashing treasure manual again. He frowned. Chapter 554. He felt that something was not right. This was not because he had obtained it too easily, but because this martial art gave him a strange feeling. It did not have a subtle, profound, or grand feeling. There was a strange and inexplicable aura to it. He believed in his feelings because of the omniscient mirror. His intuition was much sharper than the average person's. He did not cultivate this secret manual hastily. He kept staring at it, trying to figure out the truth. With the omniscient mirror, he could see every detail of the small silk book. He could even see inside and out. He could see every fiber of the book clearly. He could tell whether it was real or fake. This silk book had been around for a long time. It was not a fake one. After a while, he could tell that this silk book had a few hundred years of history. However, the martial art of this ancient book was indeed strange. After studying it for a while, he could only try to cultivate it. His inner energy followed the heart technique, but nothing happened. After one circulation, there was no reaction. He could not find a way to cultivate it. This was a fresh experience for him. Ever since he cultivated the omniscient mirror, his comprehension was amazing. As long as it was a martial art, he could learn it in one go. He could see through the secret with just one look. However, this heart technique was different. It was strange. It could not be said to be brilliant, but there was something strange about it. It was as if there was a layer of fog covering it. He could not see through it no matter how hard he tried. This made Chu Li curious and cautious. He disappeared into the courtyard. The next moment, he appeared in a courtyard in the imperial residence of King Jing. He coughed. Lu Yurong opened the window, revealing her crystal-clear face. She was cultivating. Her appearance had not faded yet. She looked like a jade statue. Her eyes were cold but dark and threatening. It was as if she could see through people's hearts. "What is it?" She frowned and looked at Chu Li with dissatisfaction. It was already late at night, but Chu Li suddenly came to visit. People would think that there was something going on between them. It would only cause gossip. Chu Li said, "Let's talk inside." Lu Yurong frowned and glared at him. She waved her hand. "Come in." She looked at Chu Li's face and knew that it was important. Chu Li pushed the door open and entered. As soon as she stepped into the house, a faint fragrance wafted into her nose, refreshing her mind. The decorations in the house were simple and elegant, matching her temperament. She was wearing a loose nightgown, and her beautiful hair was loose, black and shiny, as if shrouded in a layer of mist. Her sparkling and translucent face emitted a warm luster, no different from suet white jade. She was dressed so casually, but she suddenly looked more charming and less cold. Her flirtatious temperament seemed to fill the room. Lu Yurong sat on the armchair and looked at him coldly. "You came here in the middle of the night. What can't we talk about tomorrow?" Chu Li took out the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual from his sleeve and passed it to her. "I can't wait until tomorrow." Lu Yurong took it and glanced at it casually. She raised her head and looked at him. Chu Li said, "I've just gotten it. I'm showing it to you as a sign of keeping my promise." Lu Yurong glared at him. He was a man of his word, but he always played tricks and took the opportunity to raise conditions. It was unusual for him to keep his promise so easily. Something unusual must have happened, or else he would not have come so late. She looked down and flipped through it. Her eyebrows were slightly furrowed. "What do you think?" Chu Li said, "It was a lucky hit. I personally went to the Autumn Wind Camp to investigate and tracked the murderer to the High Hill Association. The High Hill Association destroyed the Autumn Wind Camp because of this secret manual. When I went there, the High Hill Association was being destroyed by the Haoran faction. So I took the opportunity to take this secret manual." "The Haoran faction?" Lu Yurong said. "It's considered a second-rate faction, but they are well-informed. If that's the case, it's your wedding dress." Chu Li smiled. "I took advantage of a loophole and was lucky to get this secret manual, the Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual, and it's just such a small one." Lu Yurong shook her head and sighed. "It feels a little unreal." "I feel the same," Chu Li said. Lu Yurong frowned and thought about it, then shook her head. Chu Li said, "I think this secret manual is fake." "You think so too?" Lu Yurong looked at him. "Don't tell me you gave me a fake one to fool me? I'm not that free." Chu Li said impatiently, "If I really don't want to show it to you, just say that I didn't get it. Why would I fool you with this?" Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. She slowly stopped smiling and sighed. "Looks like this Cloud Slashing Treasure Manual is really strange." Chu Li said, "Is it really a conspiracy? A trap?" Lu Yurong looked down and flipped through it again. She sighed. "It seems right, but it's not. It's hard to determine if it's fake. Usually, people who get the secret manual will try to cultivate it. If they can't cultivate it, they will doubt themselves, thinking that it's because they don't have enough aptitude and comprehension." Chu Li said, "The person who created this heart technique is not an ordinary person. Moreover, this secret manual is hundreds of years old. He really put in a lot of effort. Yes, this is the real thing." Lu Yurong smiled. "Do you think it's really a profound heart technique? Both of us can't see through it. Don't miss it." Chu Li smiled. "Then you can try to cultivate it." Lu Yurong laughed. "What if I really cultivate it? What if the person who used this secret manual to fool people didn't think that this secret manual is really a profound heart technique? Is that possible?" "It's very possible." Chu Li laughed. What kind of earth-shattering luck would be needed to encounter such a thing? Lu Yurong was really imaginative. "All right, then I'll try to cultivate it. I'm free anyway. There's nothing to do recently." Lu Yurong smiled. "Something will happen very soon. It could have been peaceful for a while, but now it seems like there's a storm again." there's never a moment of peace. Chu said, how's the strength of the G Public House? Autumn Wind Camp is within the borders of the G Public House, right? Lu Yurong said, we mind our own business and rarely have any conflicts. If that's the case, their strength is not bad. Chu nodded. Lu Yurong glared at him, but did not deny it. The strength of the G Public House far surpassed that of the E Public House. Although it was slightly weaker than the Rin Public House, the difference was not too big. So both sides restrained each other for fear of hurting the innocent. The relationship between the High Duke's public houses was like that between countries. It was almost impossible for them to live in peace. There would always be some disputes and friction. Lu Yurong said, you want to snatch the case from the G Public House? There are innate masters, right? According to her experience, as long as it involved a case of a faction extermination, there would usually be innate masters. There are innate masters. Chu nodded. Lu Yurong's face darkened. If there are innate masters, then it's the High Duke's Public House's case. What does the Secret Guardians Hall want to do? Chu said, I'm just afraid that the High Duke's Public House won't be able to control themselves and want to snatch the secret manual. You underestimate the High Duke's Public House. Lu Yurong laughed coldly. No matter how bad it is, they will still act according to the law. As for the secret manual, they will at most make a copy. They won't keep it for themselves. Chu laughed. Isn't that enough? Chu, you should understand that if the Secret Guardians Hall meddles, the High Duke's Public House will not be polite, Lu Yurong said coldly. It's not just you. Even if Fu Mengshan personally intervenes, the G Public House will skin him alive. Chu said, I didn't send anyone over. That's for the best. Lu Yurong's expression softened. But I'm preparing to send someone over, Chu said. Chapter 5:55. Chu said, this is not a trivial matter. If the High Duke's Public House really doesn't act properly, I'm afraid it will cause chaos in the country. Money moves people's hearts, not to mention this cloud-slashing treasure manual. The Wuling sects in the territory will take advantage of the situation to create chaos. It's better to leave this matter to the High Duke's Public House. It's best if the Imperial Court doesn't interfere, especially your Secret Guardians Hall. The more you mess things up, the worse it gets. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu slowly said, if this was Chongming Road, I wouldn't want to interfere. Master Xiao Taiying is impartial and straightforward, but this is the G Public House. That might not be the case. He knew the reputation of the G Public House. High Duke G was not a righteous person. Instead, he valued money very much and acted unscrupulously. It was precisely because of these High Dukes that the courtiers discussed the removal of the High Duke's Public House all day long. Let me tell you, the G Public House has a very close relationship with the Hao Ran faction, Lu Yurong said faintly. Chu frowned and asked, if that's the case, will they protect Hao Ran faction? Of course. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu shook his head. Hao Ran faction won't be able to get away scot-free. The leader of the High Ridge Association shouted that the cloud-slashing treasure manual is in the hands of Hao Ran faction's Ling Haya. Everyone in the city heard it. I reckon that by tomorrow, everyone will know. Then the Hao Ran faction is really in trouble. Lu Yurong frowned and said, I'm afraid it'll be the destruction of the faction. The Hao Ran clan was a second-rate clan. If it was a first-rate clan like the Green Hill faction or the Phoenix faction, others would be wary of them even if they obtained the secret manual. If they wanted to snatch the secret manual, they had to work together. Working together was the most troublesome thing, especially when the people of the martial arts world were hot-blooded and free to do whatever they wanted. They would not give in to others. They could only make others give in to them. Only if there was someone with great prestige would it be possible for them to work together. The How Ran faction did not have such a deterrent force. Once others received the news, they would pounce on them without any scruples. They would do anything for the sake of the cloud-slashing treasure manual. People die for wealth. Those who kill will always be killed. Chu Li shook his head. He had no sympathy for Ling Haya. Just like how he felt for Wu Ji, he didn't care if they died. After all, none of them were innocent. However, because of this, too many grudges would be stirred up, and the martial arts world would be in chaos. He was a little worried. Once the chaos occurred, it would not only affect one road, it would spread far and wide, and even the Chongming Road would not be spared. If it was not for the e-public house, he would not have worried about these things that the emperor should worry about. Lu Yurong said, "The key is that Haoran faction doesn't have the secret manual. Even if Haoran faction is smart enough to hand over the manual, I'm afraid they'll be wiped out in the end." Chu Li furrowed his brows. "If we want to avoid it, we can only join forces with the High Duke's public house." Lu Yurong shook her head and said, "This is a huge taboo. Not only will the imperial court not agree to it, but all the sects in the martial arts world will also treat Hao Ran faction with hostility." Chu Li said, "At the end of the day, the Hao Ran faction is doomed." Lu Yurong nodded slowly and indifferently. She did not care at all. Chu Li stood up and paced with his hands behind his back, stepping on the thick and soft carpet and smelling the refreshing fragrance. It was indeed a great enjoyment in this house. However, Chu Li was not in the mood to enjoy this. He pondered and said, "If we want to solve the Hao Ran faction's crisis, we can only ask them to unite with the other factions. Unfortunately, they can't produce the secret manual. Why don't we send the secret manual back?" "How kind of you," Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. "A storm is brewing," Lu Yurong scoffed and said, "You don't have to worry about these things. You're not the emperor." Chu Li laughed and shook his head. Lu Yurong said, "There's going to be another bloodbath. Many people will fall, and many will rise to become famous masters. This kind of storm happens every 10 years or so. You'll get used to it. If we can't weaken these martial arts sects, the Ji dynasty will be in chaos, and the High Duke's public house will be in trouble." The High Duke's public house was extremely vigilant against the martial arts sections. They would also secretly sow discord among them, causing them to have grudges and kill each other. This would weaken their strength, and they would not pose a threat to the High Duke's public house. Once the martial arts world was stronger than the High Duke's public house, the prestige of the High Duke's public house would be greatly damaged. That would be a disaster. The martial arts sects would take the opportunity to stir up trouble and would never let go of the chance to expose themselves. Some would take the opportunity to expand their territory and recruit disciples, while others would rob and kill. Chu Li sighed and said, "Actually, it's easy to calm this storm. The Ji public house can just stand up and say that they've obtained the secret manual." Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Why would the High Duke's public house do such a stupid thing? They're eager for it to happen. Chu Li frowned. "This matter is a little strange. I don't think it's appropriate." I'll tell you the truth," Lu Yurong said. "This matter might not be the doing of the Ji public house." Chu Li frowned and looked at her. Lu Yurong pondered for a moment, her bright eyes staring at him. Chu Li said, "Is there something that I don't know?" "Fine, there's no harm in telling you. These methods are commonly used by the High Duke's public house, and also by the imperial court. They weaken the martial arts sect's strength, so that the imperial court can't suppress them, and the world won't be at peace. Aren't you afraid that this will damage the country's strength?" Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong smiled. What's the big deal about damaging the country's strength? As long as the Li dynasty doesn't attack, the key is to stabilize the country. The two of them were alone in the secret room, so she spoke more boldly. She told him about these cold-hearted methods so that he would not act recklessly lest he messed up someone else's plans and made a huge enemy. If it was really the doing of the G public house, then it must have been with the emperor's permission. No matter how strong Chu Li was, he would not be able to withstand a single blow from the emperor. You're saying that this secret manual might be the doing of the G public house. Chu Li frowned. It's highly possible. Don't underestimate the talents of the High Duke's public house, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li sat on the armchair and sighed. I thought it was a conspiracy by the Li dynasty to weaken the Ji dynasty's strength, but in the end, it was the Ji dynasty's doing. Sigh, he shook his head and laughed. Lu Yurong looked at him with a smile. I thought you're smart enough to have guessed it long ago, and I even hinted it to you, but you always think of the Li dynasty's side, forcing me to tell you this. Chu Li said impatiently, this is playing with fire. It can't be helped. Lu Yurong said, not only the Ji dynasty, but the Li dynasty, the Zheng dynasty, the Fu dynasty, and the Qiu dynasty are all like this. Chu Li sighed. I understand. This was the cold reality. There were no emotions, only benefits. The martial arts factions would be schemed against by the imperial court and the High Duke's public house, so power and martial arts were equally important. His path was not wrong. So, don't interfere in this matter. Let the G public house handle it themselves, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li smiled. Thank you very much. These words were not something an ordinary person could say, and Lu Yurong would not say these things to an ordinary person. It was considered a sincere and kind gesture. Lu Yurong scoffed. As long as you don't do anything stupid. As for this secret manual, I'd better cultivate it. I'll give it to you. Chu Li stood up. It's late, goodbye. Hurry up and leave. Lu Yurong waved her hand and picked up the cloud-slashing treasure manual to read again. Chu Li disappeared in a flash. His following days were idle, and he did not interfere with the case of the Autumn Wind Camp anymore. He only watched the changes in the martial arts world in the Ji public house. On the third day, he received news that Hao Ran faction was massacred by more than 10 martial arts masters in one night. Their vitality was greatly damaged, and half of their disciples were killed while the other half were injured. Chapter 556. P.S. I can only upload 5 chapters today. I've slapped myself in the face. I really don't have the face to see anyone. I didn't sleep well last night, so I was groggy the whole day. Plus, I wasn't in a good state. I wrote and wrote, then deleted again and again when I wasn't satisfied. I was frustrated and angry with myself, so I had to go to bed immediately. It was true I couldn't come online to chat with everyone. Would be bullied. So please forgive me. Valley was also a arrived at the Secret Guardians
similar
Hall
to
at
how
noon.
Rand faction,
May Air Courtyard,
however,
was bustling
Valley
with
only
noise
consisted of
and
women.
excitement. So in the eyes of others, they were
and the
easier
other 3
to bully.
grandmasters
Could
were
it be the
sparring
G
on the
Public
martial
House
arts
this
field.
time?
Their
This was
momentum
the
was
Public House's
astonishing
territory.
as fist
They had
and
crossed
palm
the
energy
line.
surged.
Centurion,
Dong
Chi-Fei,
Yang Zong
and the others' eyes
cautiously
lit up
should we
as
take
they
action?
watched. It was
Chu
rare
Li
to see a
waved his
grandmaster
hand
spar,
and said,
so watching
"You
a
may
grandmaster
leave.
spar
I need
would
to think
benefit
about it."
them greatly.
Yes,
Chu Li
Yang
glanced
Zong
at them.
hurriedly replied.
He did not
and
disturb
left
them
the room
and went to his
Chu Li
house.
stood up and paced
Yang
around
Zong
with
when
his
came out
hands
from
behind
his
his
back,
room on the west
trying to
side,
think of
knocked
a solution.
on the door and
entered.
Hua Valley would
Chu
not be
Li
found
sat on
so
the
easily.
armchair.
But
Any
this group of
news?
people had
There is a
sinister
piece of
intentions.
news.
They
Yang
had
Zong
already
took out a
expressed
scroll
their desire
and handed
for
it over.
Hua Valley.
Currently,
If they did not
there are
ruthlessly
rumors
beat
that
them
after
up,
the
they
Cloud
would not
slashing
give up.
treasure manual
How to
disappeared
ruthlessly
from how Rand
teach them a
sect.
lesson
It
was
fell
the
into
most
the hands of
important
Tai Hua
thing
Valley
to think about.
Chu Li sat up
Chu Li
straight.
appeared on his own
Tai
island,
Hua Valley?
then boarded a
Yes.
boat and went to
Yang
Iron
Zong
Eagle Island.
pointed at the dossier
As he approached
and said,
the main hall,
Tai Hua
Lin
Valley
Quan
seems
came
to
out
be
to
within the
welcome him.
borders
He
of the
smiled
public
and said,
house.
"Chief,
I just
young
received
Master
the
Shao
news
invites
this
you
morning.
over.
I
Chu
know
Li
that the
nodded
Centurion
and looked at
is
Lin
concerned
Quan.
about it.
How is
So
young
I came
Master
to
Zhao's
report it.
mood recently? During this
Lin
period
Quan
of time,
still had white
they had
hair
been watching the
and a
various
youthful
sects
complexion.
of the martial
His
arts
face was
world
rosy,
killing each
and
other.
did not look old
The
at all.
secret guardians
He said
of the
in a low
Imperial
voice,
House did not
"Young
make a move.
Master Shao
and
has been
only
in a good
watched
mood
from the side
recently.
The same
There
went
is
to the G
nothing
Public
to worry
House.
about in the
They
outside
looked on
world.
coldly from the
All the
sidelines.
sects
in the martial arts
indifferent
world
to the attack
are
on the
quite
how
well
Rand
behaved.
faction, as if they did
Have
not
you
know
heard about
it.
the Cloud
The sects in the
slashing
martial
treasure
arts
manual
world were naturally
Chu Li
furious
asked,
that the G
young
Public House
Master
had helped
Shao
the
thinks
how
that
Rand
the Cloud
faction,
slashing
but the
treasure
G
manual
Public
is
House's
nonsense.
indifference made
Lin
the
Quan
sects
shook his
even
head.
more disappointed.
Chu Li said,
The how
"What
Rand
about
faction
Tai
had
Hua
been so
Valley?"
close to the G
Lin
Public
Quan
House,
looked at him,
yet they
doubtfully,
had ended up like
and
this.
shook his head.
As expected,
Chu Li said,
the
"It
High
seems
Duke's
that
Public
young
House
Master
could not
Shao
be
has not
trusted.
received the news."
Chu Li shook
Someone
his head
spread the news
and
that
sighed to
Tai Hua
himself.
Valley has
The G Public
Cloud
House's
slashing
was a
treasure
bad
manual.
move. The how
Isn't that
Rand
nonsense?
faction was completely
Lin
finished.
Quan was shocked,
and the G
of course
Public
he
House's
knew
prestige
about Tai Hua
was
Valley.
completely gone.
The disciples
Yang
of Tai
Zong knew
Hua
that the
Valley
Centurion's
almost
attitude was
never
purely to
appeared in
watch
the
the
martial
show.
arts world.
Yang Zong
They all
catered to the
cultivated by
Centurions'
themselves
and
interest
stood aloof
and
from
collected a
worldly
lot of
affairs.
information in
He did
great
not expect
detail that it would
However,
be targeted by
Tai
others.
Hua Valley was
They
different
wanted
this
to
time.
use someone
This
else
was
to do
because it
their
was within
dirty
the
work.
borders of
What
the
was
Public
more
House.
important was that
It
the
was the
women
territory
that Chu Li
of the
valued
Centurion
had all
Chu
entered
Li took
Tai
the
Hua
dossier,
Valley,
skimmed through
the
it,
public
and
house had been
sneered.
secretly
He did
thinking
not
of ways
expect
to
that there would
them
be someone
to
who wanted
prevent
to go
anyone
against
from
Tai
disturbing
Hua
Tai Hua
Valley.
Valley and hurting Chu Li's women. The two of them chatted as they entered the main hall. Co. Taiying stood at the entrance of the main hall to welcome them. He smiled and said, "Chu Li, you are a busy man now. You are a popular man in the Secret Guardians Hall, a centurion." Chu Li waved his hand and said, "Young Master Shao, something has happened." Lin Quan hurriedly explained the matter. Co. Taiying's face darkened. "Unfortunately,
Sinister.
we can't find the person who spread the rumor. There is no need to look." Co. Taiying scoffed. "They will not be able to find the location of Tai Hua Valley." Chu Li shook his head. "That may not be the case. It is better to be careful." Co. Taiying walked for a while and scoffed. "I will send out the High Duke's order. No martial arts masters are allowed to participate in the matter of the Cloud slashing treasure manual." Chu Li laughed and shook his head. Following the rise of the E-Public House, Co. Taiying also became powerful. He was not as cautious as before. He would consider this and that. He had to carefully consider each party's attitude. Co. Taiying said, "Now, with the prestige of our public house, they will not dare to disobey." Chu Li said, "Young Master Shao,
Tai Hua Valley will be in even more trouble. That is true, Xiao Taiying nodded. The martial arts factions were most afraid of having anything to do with the High Duke's public house. They would become an anomaly and be isolated by other factions in the martial arts world. Chu Li, do you have any good ideas? Xiao Taiying said. Should we secretly send some martial arts masters over? Chu Li shook his head. We can't just watch, right? Xiao Taiying frowned. Chu Li said, I came over to ask young Master Xiao not to care about this matter. He knew Tai Hua Valley better than others. Tai Hua Valley should be considered a first-rate faction. They had the existence of the surpassing state and the protection of the formation. However, because of the concealment of the formation and faction, they rarely interacted with other factions. Therefore, no one knew their strength, and they were looked down upon. Tai Hua Valley had always lacked the Tai Hua Gold Pill, which limited the improvement of their strength. Now that they did not lack the Tai Hua Gold Pill, their strength would explode. Who knew how many grandmasters they had now? Xiao Taiying was stunned. He said in surprise, Don't care? Chu Li said, Just pretend that you don't know. Don't care about Tai Hua Valley. Why? Xiao Taiying was in disbelief. He knew Chu Li's feelings for Chun Ying and the other women. He carefully protected them, like family. Chu Li said, It's time for Tai Hua Valley to establish their power. At the same time, we can see if we can find out who is behind this. All right, I'll listen to you. Xiao Taiying had a deep understanding of Chu Li's schemes. He smiled. You want to do it yourself? Chu Li smiled. I don't have to do it this time. Young Master Xiao, you have to pay attention to the movements in our territory. Wasn't the cloud-slashing treasure manual made by the G Public House? Xiao Taiying frowned. Looking at this method, it seems to be the handiwork of the G Public House. Chu Li said, If it enters our territory, it's good now. I don't want it to be chaotic again. Xiao Taiying shook his head. Chu Li nodded slowly. Chapter 558. Qiao San's light body technique was extremely good. He left crouching Bull Mountain like a gust of wind and rushed all the way. He arrived at Fairy's capital in the evening and went straight to a mansion. This was a middle-class mansion. It looked no different from its surroundings. There was no need to worry about food and clothing, but it was not rich enough either. After stepping in, it was a completely different world. There was a small bridge overflowing water, a winding path, and layers of rockery. The entire mansion was an extremely elegant garden. It was elegant, quiet, and unique. Qiao San could not bear to step in as he was afraid of ruining the peace and quiet of the courtyard. He was led to the living room by a white-haired old man. When he entered the living room, a tall and burly middle-aged man was sipping tea. He looked at him coldly, as if he was trying to see through him. Qiao San greets Master Lu. Qiao San closed fist saluted and said respectfully. Lu Chuan put down his teacup and said, Qiao San, how long has it been? Yes, Master Lu. Qiao San closed fist saluted and said, It has been 3 years. What happened? Lu Chuan asked, Did your master send you out? Qiao San shook his head and smiled. Master Lu, I am now serving the young lord. Oh, this is a promotion. Lu Chuan smiled. I really have to congratulate you. It's not as high as Master Lu's promotion. Qiao San smiled. Master Lu being promoted to a centurion is a great thing. Master and the young lord are very happy. They even got drunk. Lu Chuan smiled and said, Brother Zhuge, how have you been lately? Did you marry another girl? No. Qiao San shook his head. Master had some enlightenment during his cultivation. He is in isolated cultivation. The young lord is in charge now. Oh, Zhuge Tian. Lu Chuan sighed. This little guy has grown up. What brings you here this time? Xiao San was secretly impressed. Lu Chuan was able to understand the situation in Crouching Bull Mountain with just a few words. He was probably testing if he was telling the truth. These people from the secret Guardians Hall were not easy to fool. Master Lu, I want to ask about the situation in Taihua Valley. Taihua Valley? Lu Chuan frowned. Which Taihua Valley? The one with all female disciples. Xiao Sen replied. Lu Chuan shook his head. It's a second-rate sect, right? Yes, yes. Xiao Sen nodded and smiled. Master Lu has a good memory. It is indeed a second-rate sect. Where? Lu Chuan asked. It seems to be Chongming Road, but no one knows where Taihua Valley is, so it might not be Chongming Road, Xiao Sen said with a smile. Lu Chuan furrowed his brows. Chongming Road. Is it the road of the Yi public house? Yes. Xiao San nodded. Lu Chuan remained silent, deep in thought. Xiao San did not know what he meant, but he did not dare to disturb him. He looked at him carefully. After a while, Lu Chuan straightened his body and said seriously, Xiao San, tell me the truth. Why are you asking about Taihua Valley? Xiao San laughed and said, to be honest, Master Lu, the young lord has some connections with the Taihua Valley's valley leader. He wants to find them and meet Mei Aoshuang. Zhuge Tian has taken a liking to her. Lu Chuan scoffed. Xiao San smiled. Master Lu is wise. Lu Chuan frowned and said nothing. Xiao San looked at Lu Chuan in surprise. It was just Taihua Valley, a second-rate faction. Even if Mei Aoshuang was a grandmaster and a beauty, the centurion of the secret Guardians Hall would not care about her, right? Why was Lu Chuan's reaction so strange? After a while, Xiao San called out softly, Master Lu? He saw that Lu Chuan was lost in thought. If he did not wake him up, he might be in a daze for the whole night. Yes. Lu Chuan glanced at him. Go back and tell Zhuge Tian to put away his playful thoughts and not provoke Taihua Valley. Xiao San was even more confused. He quickly said, Master Lu, please tell me. Lu Chuan sighed and shook his head. Taihua Valley has some connections with Centurion Chu. Centurion Chu? Xiao San was shocked. The Centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall? Yes, a new Centurion. Lu Chuan waved his hand. In short, if Zhuge Tian does not want to be unlucky, he should not provoke Taihua Valley. Recently, there was news that the cloud-slashing treasure manual is in the hands of Taihua Valley. Could it be Zhuge Tian's doing? This. Xiao San hesitated. He did not know if he should admit it. Lu Chuan scoffed. If Zhuge Tian knows what's good for him, he should stay put and not mess around. Xiao San smiled in an attempt to please him. Master Lu, is this new centurion so powerful that you are so afraid of him? Humph! Lu Chuan glared at him. Why, Xiao San, are you trying to provoke me? Xiao San quickly waved his hand. I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Lu Chuan scoffed. I'm not afraid of him. I'm just worried about our friendship. If we were to fall out because of you, it would not be worth it. We would see each other all the time, and it would be awkward. Yes, yes. Xiao San quickly nodded. Lu Chuan said, just like if other sects were to touch you, would I just stand by and watch? Of course you wouldn't, Master Lu. Xiao San quickly said. He knew about the relationship between Lu Chuan and the Hill Master. He knew that the Hill Master was Lu Chuan's informant and had gotten some information from Lu Chuan. Both of them helped each other, and they might be friends, but it was still a relationship of benefit. Lu Chuan said, this new centurion is young and full of vigor. If Zhuge Tian really attacks Taihua Valley, He will definitely take care of Crouching Bull Mountain. Just you wait. Hee hee, we still have you, Master Lu. Qiao Sen laughed. Lu Chuan lightly said, Qiao Sen, you are a wise man. Even if I stand up for you, there is a limit to what I can do. We are all secret guardians of the Secret Guardians Hall. We cannot kill each other. We have to follow the rules. You guys initiated a fight. Even if I stand up for you, I won't be able to protect all of you. When the time comes, who would be the most suitable scapegoat? Hee hee. Qiao San's expression changed. Lu Chuan scoffed. I think you're the most suitable. Qiao San quickly said, Master Lu, you really know how to joke. If you don't stop, then it's not a joke. Master Lu coldly glanced at him. Your master is in isolated cultivation. If my words don't work, and Zhuge Tian acts recklessly, then I really won't stand up for you. Centurion Chu will take care of you. Is Centurion Chu very powerful? Qiao San quickly asked. Lu Chuan said, You should have heard of him. Chu Li, the former chief of the E-Public House. Chu Li. Qiao San thought for a while and slapped his thigh. So it's him. Lu Chuan smiled. Now you know how powerful this guy is. Qiao San laughed. He is indeed a powerful person. He is not inferior to the young lord. Lu Chuan laughed. Qiao San laughed along with him. Lu Chuan looked at Qiao San and could not help but laugh again. Qiao San looked at him awkwardly. Lu Chuan laughed. You really dare to say that he is not inferior to Zhuge Tian? Ha ha. Qiao San said, The young lord is very talented. Most people cannot compare to him. This Chu Li is somewhat comparable. Lu Chuan sighed, helplessly. In your eyes, is your young lord that powerful? Of course. Qiao San said matter-of-factly. At the young lord's age, how many people can become grandmasters? That's true. Zhuge Tian's talent is indeed extraordinary. All right, I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. In short, don't provoke Tai Hua Valley. It's getting late. You should hurry back. Then where is Tai Hua Valley? I can't be bothered with your stupid business. Lu Chuan impatiently waved his hand. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.